Good evening, everyone. I think it is now 5 o'clock. And I think we are online and recording. Thank you for joining us this evening. I can't see how many are online, but I think there are a few. And I will open it up. This is the meeting of the Board of Directors for CROA and ask for any owners' comments. So if you have a comment, if you could raise your hand or indicate online if you have an owner's comment.
And Diana, just for the stating it, before board meetings, we take owners' comments
Yes.
at the front of the meeting and not during the meeting. It is the workshop, different than the workshop structure.
Yes, and as you start your comment, if you can give your name and your residence, so we know where you are speaking. Any comments?
Nothing in the chat. No raised hands.
No raised hands, no nothing in the chat? Going, gone? No comments? Okay. Has the meeting been noticed properly, Neil or Susanna?
Yes, it has.
Thank you very much. Do we have a quorum? Yes, we do. We have all 7. We have the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have a flag, so we're going to turn our back on you. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that is much better in person than it is online that we have done.
It
in
is
the
so
past.
hard standing up
Yes, so
and doing it in
it's very
Zoom.
difficult online. So that felt much better doing it in person. And
Oh,
thankfully.
yeah,
we're
you
all
see the
back in
bellies.
person. All right.
Thank you, Susanna,
Well, mine too.
for the record.
All right. Very good. Thank you all again. I would like to call the meeting to order. And I would like to have a motion to adopt the agenda, but we do have one change in the agenda. We would like to move number 19 and make it number 1A and make 1 number 1B.
Is
So-
that in our agenda that's on this piece of paper? or not?
Yes, it has not been changed on the agenda on the piece of paper, so you will have to manually change that,
So the motion to approve the updated administrative resolution moves all the way up to the front.
which makes sense.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Okay, fine.
So,
Do I have-
so moved with that adjustment.
Thank you. David has moved and so Jackson has second. All in favor?
Aye.
Comments?
Any comment? Were there any comments about that? Sorry, I skipped over that. Any comments?
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Besides, it makes sense.
It makes sense. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So motion approved. The next is approval of minutes. We have multiple sets of minutes to approve because we did not have a board meeting last month. And once these are approved, they will be posted on our town hall website for everyone to review. We do not post them prior to approval. We have had some questions on that. I have a hand from Jackson.
Since I was not on the board in the month of February, I'm going to abstain from approving the minutes for any of the February meetings, and I'll vote on the March meetings. I don't know what Celia and Cindy are planning to do, but I wanted to make that announcement.
Makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
Can we
Do-
divide the minutes into 2 sets?
Which would be February 24th, CROA board meeting, CROA workshops on February 1st, February 5th, February 16th, February 19th.
I'll make a motion to approve workshop and board minutes from February of 2021.
Do I have a second for that?
Second on
motion?
that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining.
Abstain.
Abstain.
So I think we have four to approve that. Okay. Then we still have minutes to approve from March 5th, March 19th, March 22nd, and March 29th.
I'll make a motion to approve all March workshop minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, the next we have committee reports. And I don't know if we have anyone here from the committees to make a report. If you are representing one of your committees and you have a report, could you raise your hand or indicate that you would like to speak? Hey, Jackson Mummy, what committee are you representing?
Recreation. You'll see that there are minutes of their meetings in January and February. Again, I can't speak to those. I did want to update the board on one particular item for the Recreation Committee. you may recall that there was some discussion of having a Memorial Day weekend soccer tournament. The Recreation Committee approved that event. Then following the meeting, there were a series of questions raised by management such that it became impossible for the sponsors to satisfy those questions in the time frame that they needed to. So they pulled back out of the event, and it is now, instead of a large event, I think there were 50 some teams that they had planned. Now it's a much smaller, more localized event for Memorial Day. And they will now be attempting to do a Labor Day bigger event. The thing that I want to point out to the committee is that our goal as we come out of the COVID period is to try and get the field usage up again, to start to generate revenue, to create activity for celebration kids and others in using those fields. I know that we've talked in workshops about utilization of the fields with respect to how to use them and what they should be doing. I think it's important to note that there is activity on those fields. There are groups that want to use those fields that are scheduling right now pretty actively. So the Recreation Committee is spending a fair amount of their time trying to figure out how to make that work.
Have you thought about can I talk? Have you thought about having a logistic person on that committee? Because, I mean, we all knew from the get-go that there's not enough parking there. So I think that there needs to be somebody who can make some suggestions to these groups. You know, do they want to try to bus their teams from someplace and then shuttle them from one of the parking lots on the boulevard that would allow them to use it or something like that? Because what I'm envisioning is all the traffic backed up, you know, if you have 50 teams in a larger event.
So the response to that is I think we have 12 applications, 11 or 12 applications for the Recreation Committee.
14.
14. So that's not, is my understanding, that's not going to come up before the board tonight.
It is not.
But we do have some people with expertise in various aspects of actually using the fields. I am impressed with the people that are on the Recreation Committee. They've all been dedicated, spent a lot of time. Some of them have been there for years and years and years. But as we rethink our committee structure, I think your point is a good one. Having people that are actually boots on the ground doing things would be very helpful at that particular site. And as we look forward to pickleball and other things, I think that's going to become increasingly important.
Tonight, I'm sorry, on speaking about the Memorial Day events, they said that they were going to fund the staffing, that town hall would not have to fund anything,
Right.
put no staff up. They were going to take care of the parking. I don't understand how they're going to accommodate 300 people and get that parking all
I don't know the answer-
organized.
I don't know the answer.
no
to
better
that
than
either.
town
Yeah.
hall does it because they do an amazing job. So
I think that part of the concern was that management's concerns, their questions about this weren't raised before the committee voted to approve the event. And I think we have to get better at coordinating between management and the committee so that the legitimate questions can be raised and then resolved. And the committee is a good place to do that. I mean, I think we should trust our committees to do the legwork on those things before they come to us. But in this case, the committee approved it. And then management said, we've got these questions. And then the promoter said, I don't think I can answer those questions for you in the time you've got. So we ended up recasting it.
Okay. I think those are all good points to be brought
And
up. I think Brian was next. and then-
I'm happy to follow Kevin, doesn't matter.
I appreciate the comment of getting somebody that has logistics in their background, part of the committee and so on and so forth. I think we can actually get ahead of it by just requiring those questions to be answered by whoever it is that's providing their service or activity to the committee. The committee,
Yeah, there should be
Anybody,
a
you
there should be a form, right? I mean, there should be
Yes.
something that you
From the
fill out
beginning.
that says, here's what you're going to do. We're still in an ad hoc. My sense after being away for a year is we're still pretty much doing this,
We
right?
lost a
Trying to
whole
figure
year
our
of
way
COVID.
through.
Testing.
there's been no year, nothing's
Yeah.
changed.
And so,
Shut down in April.
and so when we've got this big facility and a run rate that's, expensive to keep, we need some policies and procedures in place that make it happen more smoothly. There are still frustrations about scheduling and communication issues. And I think that we can resolve some of this by putting into place some regular activity and then asking the committee, to supervise and check that out and say, you got to fill this form out before you get to the next step. And they do that in some cases, but they don't do it all the
There
time.
should be a standard operating procedure for
I think
what
so.
questions get asked, what
Yeah, I think
information
Kevin's
gets
right. I
turned
think
in.
you do.
Yeah. So I think that's a great point. Brian.
Right.
Well, I would actually like to see, I have a concern about events where management is, it's, these things always happen on a Memorial Day or a 4th of July,
Holidays,
Christmas,
right.
Thanksgiving. You just pick your event. And management have spouses, management have kids, management has families. And I see too many times when it is assumed that town hall and management is just supposed, and I've seen things where, and they weren't soccer events, where, management was supposed to just drop everything, do it. And then the event happens. And then I've seen it when I got the calls at my home on a Sunday morning that, management hadn't got rid of everything on the field and it was interfering with this and that. I really feel, I don't have a problem at all with revenue enhancement things out there, but I don't think we should kid ourselves that we're going to break even on anything at all. I think we've actually had conversations that said that was not our goal. If we want to have specific weekend type things, I'd like to know how they're going to be staffed and everything like that so that it's fair to management. I'd actually like it to be laid out in advance. I think there ought to be a process and we need to build that process because we've also talked several times and this still has not been done. We talked about putting a keypad on the front. I went out there 2 or 3 times in the last week. I can't get in there. And I was going to do dumb things like walk lot B and D and everything and just look at things, this other stuff going on we know about. And I still can't even get in there because we still don't have a pass card. So everything, there's a whole system. You're right. Nothing's happened in the last year and it needs to happen. And we need to figure out who's going to attack that. And I'd like to charge somebody, whether maybe it's Nikki or somebody, how we build a system that works, could get sign off. And then there's got to be a process well enough in advance that it's understood.
But this Memorial Day event is going to house about 300 participants just from being at the events that we sponsor, the concerts, and see what an incredible job they do with the parking there. I don't know that people are going to come in and be able to set up the parking like we have in a safe way, even have a sheriff there. We have the sheriff there for all of our events. Is this specific company going to be providing all the safety and
We would have to require that of them as part
So,
of their proposal.
is this already a done, like, from what I
Yeah, Labor
understood
Day-
yesterday?
Memorial Day,
No,
is-
Memorial Day.
but Labor Day is still being
Labor
negotiated.
Yeah, but
Day
I'm
is being
talking about
negotiated. That's
Memorial
bigger.
Day.
Memorial Day is not just
I'm not sure the
Local
Memorial
team.
Day is actually going to be 300 people, Celia. I think it's actually much smaller.
It's
than
the
that.
Well, they went from 1,600 to 300 and they are registering $15 for the children, 20 for adults. I'm just concerned that being that I've gone to the events, the concerts that they have, the way Town Hall sets up the parking on the Lot D over there with the cones and the lighting and the lights. They're going to have food trucks there. They're going to have, is it going to be safe for parking? And is it going to be safe on our amenity? And they claim that the next day, when everything is over, that the fields will be playable, but who's going to guarantee that the parking and everything is going to be
I would
done?
like to know more about
Yeah.
the Memorial Day scaled down version, because at this point, we don't have all that information.
So two different things. At that micro level of Memorial Day, Jackson, you used the terms Recreation Committee approved. Some of these rise to the level that the board actually approves.
Yes, some are.
Mhm.
for
Yeah,
sure.
so I don't know if this one does or does not. So just because they approve does not mean that the board would approve.
Right, I'm just
So-
concerned that it's our facility and
So at the larger level, I don't think it's fair to ask a group that is asking to use the facility to come up with their plans. I think we come up with the plans. To Celia's point,
Mhm.
we come up with the plans,
Right.
things that have worked well. JR and his team have learned what works. And this is the way it's got to run, and that we are very clear in the procedures who is doing what. If you're going to rent the facility or use the facility, then here's your responsibility. There's a checklist. We determine what the timeline of this and that is, what needs to be signed off by when. To Brian's point, this last minute stuff, whether it's last minute or even the query, if it's 5 months out, is this something that management is capable not skill wise, time wise, staffing wise of doing, or do we not want to take this on because they're already committed to something else the next day or the day after something? So these are all conditions. I mean, I
And we're
think we-
running out of
we
time
build a
because
master
Memorial Day
checklist.
is in a couple of weeks.
I think the way I'd like to ask this is that we need to get a report from Nikki about what is happening on Memorial Day, what their safety plan is, what their parking plan is, what their participation level is.
It's 2
and have
days,
that-
the
and have- yeah,
29th
so
and the
Mem-
30th.
So the Memorial Day weekend. So we can look at it and see how we feel, see if there's any issues or they have any concerns. Yes, ma'am.
I would go a little bit further with, ask them what their plans are, but then I think that we should also have like a backup plan if we don't like theirs. Like if we want to investigate a van company that we would want to use like a Mears or like a shuttle. If we want to make an agreement with like the people that own the La Rosa building, could we park there in your lot?
Yeah, but that's CROA doing it. This,
Well,
Yeah.
no, this is their, so
okay.
we can
We
tell
would have
them,
that
yeah,
they
we
would
can
be
tell them,
required
well,
to
here's
do
an
it.
option for you, but it's
Mhm.
going to cost you X number of
Yeah.
dollars. We can have your people park right over here and there will be a shuttle running, every half hour or every 15 minutes or whatever.
So I agree.
Bathrooms. They're going to bring porta potties in.
I don't know. So
we don't have the
who's
answer to
gonna
that.
staff the bathrooms and clean them
We
after
don't have
this?
Well,
the
and
answer to
then
that.
if we do open up our bathrooms, then they have to pay for an attendant, and they have to pay for the janitorial services for that.
So there's staff right there.
And then as far as cleaning up the fields, we let, I think it was the barbecue people. We had the Great American Barbecue Cook-Off or something here several years ago. And they wanted to use the Great Lawn. And we made them give a hefty deposit to use the Great Lawn.
Sure.
And they got it back, or, majority of it back
If they left. it in
after
good
they left
condition.
it, and if it was exactly as it was when they came.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we need to ask Susanna to get with Nikki to get a complete plan so we feel comfortable with what is being planned for Memorial Day. Because obviously from all the questions that we have, we don't feel comfortable that we have enough information about what's going on.
Do we have
Kevin, you
any
have-
information?
We have what Jessica
have-
told us and what
We
Celia gave us.
have food trucks that are going to be there and they have the certificates for that.
So,
They have the Malia and the lawyers in town that are going to be sponsoring this. And I just, like I said, have an issue with that parking because I saw what it was like when we have our events there.
so we need to know a lot more about this to feel comfortable with it going on. Obviously, it's already in the works, but we need more information.
Kevin has a comment, then I have.
Yes.
I was just trying to save a whole ton of time right now. While I appreciate the conversation, we got a lot going on today. In the March 22nd meeting minutes from the Recreation Committee, it says they will compile a plan and provide it to us. So I think all of this conversation is extremely premature. We got enough on our plate
Yeah,
today.
but Memorial
so
Day is in 3 weeks.
That's
They
fine. Well, they're
haven't
in the
given a plan.
process, so.
Okay.
That's,
Susanna will
That's
get
all
back
it
with
is.
us and let us know, because obviously they're working on a plan.
So I
Brian,
just got two quick comments.
thank you, Brian. Thank you. Kevin.
Insurance, we haven't mentioned insurance
Mhm.
at all. Are they buying insurance to our protection? Because the first person that will get sued on a CROA field is
It's
CROA.
us.
And CROA and the board. So
Mhm.
without that, I would have a real problem.
Mhm.
And we have not had the conversation yet about how many of these events are we willing to allow to have out there? Because there are parties in town who would like to use this as a great revenue enhancing feature for their soccer clubs. And I'm sure there would be other clubs too. That does not pull on my heartstrings.
And dovetailing on your first part of your comment, and what are the protocols they have to subscribe to in terms of COVID? Because it still
And
is
safety.
here.
Right, and
We
the only reason-
we haven't said we're back where
Yeah.
we were 14 months ago.
And the only reason why I
And
brought
what's
all
the, and
this
what's the
up,
consequence for non-compliance? Call the
Right.
event off midway?
right,
Well, David.
Seriously.
It's going to be impossible to enforce. Your question is 100% valid. What are we going to do when people refuse to wear a mask, which is what they're going to do because it's happening everywhere.
Because these are
Okay.
our fields and it's our property
Mm-hmm.
and it's our reputation.
and I only brought it up tonight because, like I said, we're running out of time.
So I think to Kevin's point, the committee was supposed to put together a plan. Neil sent an email to us just now saying this was has never come before the board for approval. The
No.
original idea was that we would get it to the board in a workshop to be discussed. It just never got there. And so here we are.
So we need to get moving on this very quickly. Today is Wednesday. I'm thinking.
28th.
28th. By Monday, I'd like to see something
Somebody-
to the board so we don't want to go too much further down the road till we have more information.
And I think as we provide information to Susanna, we need to tell them, you do realize there are only X number of parking spaces.
They know.
They're
You know,
using the field.
Well, I mean,
but
you
yeah.
have to put it in writing so they understand, if they're.
I'm pretty sure the group that's running this knows what's there.
Yeah, they do.
The only concern I have is them parking on Lot D and not doing it safely.
Yeah.
You can
Okay.
have a
Good point.
So
major,
we need a whole bunch more information.
and security.
for bringing it
We're
up.
gonna need
And,
some
and
all
to
that
the,
needs to
and
be-
to the larger task, thinking towards the
Yes,
future.
yep, that-
Okay,
there
let's
you
go.
Yes, all right.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Let's go.
So I think that was
Moving
it.
on.
No more
That was
committee
it.
reports.
Any other committees? Yes, technology.
Technology. I sent a thing to the board this morning. We have this Teams approach that we're not using at all. So what we need the board to do is to issue a mandate to Mr. Patrick saying we are going to be a team shop. So we would get rid of Zoom, we would do Teams. It does not matter at all. You don't do anything with Zoom, and you don't do anything with Teams. They can put microphones on the ceilings.
That's
They
great.
can put cameras on the ceilings. They've now learned how to do it wirelessly. When you speak, the camera will zoom on your pretty
gonna zoom
face
on
and
your
they'll see
shoe.
that look. They'll see my shoes. But, so we set this room up facing that way, getting ready for people. I need the board to all nod their heads and
Yes.
say
Yes.
charge.
Go for it.
Or protest.
Go.
Absolutely.
I
Okay.
don't think we're.
That I'm going
Go.
to tell them to proceed. They already have a budget. Stuff will come to us like it should come to us. Don't get me wrong. But the funding's already been budgeted. It's part of technology. So I'm moving forward.
And
Good.
one of the things I think we're gonna have to increase their budget is because all these people that are gonna be newly on the committees all have to have their teams.
And we had some
Correct.
flexibility
So,
in their.
We may
budget,
have to.
But we're.
That's
we
fine.
need- We
We've
need to
added
just
more
make it
people.
serious and that
Yes.
starts with the board saying, we've done it, which our minutes are going to.
Do
reflect
it.
that. I'm going to carry it.
Do
forward.
it.
We are moving
Thank you.
forward. All right, any other committee reports? Okay, liaison reports. I don't think we have anything other than Island Village supplement is still pending. We do not have it back from the attorney. We can't move forward till they get it to us.
I think we should mention with CCDD that the CCDD is interested in leasing the space by their building in the civic corridor where the dumpsters are so that they can put a fence around it. Brian and I have met with Jack McLaughlin to talk about this a little bit, and our position was until we decide on what we're doing with pickleball and Lot B and
Agreed.
Lot D, it's premature. And
Agreed.
the aesthetics of a dumpster lot in the middle of dog park, pickleball and playing fields is
Retail, yeah.
challenging, right? And so at the moment, we indicated that we didn't think we were ready, but we wanted to bring it to the board and just let you know that CCDD is asking.
So, I mean, we've been hearing it for quite a little while now. Do they have anything on that property at this time?
They do, they have
They do a
dumpsters
lot.
sitting there. It's really,
Since
Pretty
you've brought it up,
unsightly.
I would actually, because we haven't discussed it, I would like to go ahead and see if this board can direct management to go ahead and have conversation with them to get it removed. I
Get the
think it's a
dumpsters removed.
liability. I think it's unsightly, and I think it's not acceptable for them to just go ahead and determine they want to place something there without permission.
There's
Did
more
they
than
have permission
dumpsters there.
originally? I wasn't
I
I don't
sure.
know, did they ever have permission?
Who would have asked that? Who would have, I mean,
They
I'm surprised that
asked,
they,
they've
I'm surprised
asked,
they
but
would
they've
do it
done.
without having permission. That's
And it's
what-
happened before where it's been removed and then it went on again,
Okay.
and it's.
There was more
nonstop.
there than I remembered.
There was more than dumpsters there today.
Sure.
Today, there was more than there
Yeah.
was even a week ago. It was interesting.
Mhm.
Their position is if we leased it to them, they put a fence up and you wouldn't be able to see it, which is nice, right? But I think to the point that Kevin's making is, shouldn't be there probably in the first place. It's not.
We need-
If it hasn't been approved, it should
This has
not be
been,
there.
this has been discussed in like 18 or 19. I don't remember
I
if
don't-
we passed anything or not. You seem to be our minutes expert. Go
I don't
figure it
think
out.
so.
Celia.
Okay.
But.
Yeah, she's,
I
I
don't
was
think
gonna
so.
say, do we have a comment?
I
that-
agree with
do
your
you-
point.
Do you know of anything that was approved? I don't remember. I wasn't on the board at
Yeah,
that
you would have
point. so-
been
okay.
during your
All right,
presidency. and I
So
don't think
I
it
think
happened.
the
No.
comment that we need to get
Nothing formal.
involved with the CCD and let them know that they can't use that space unless it's been approved is valid if it sounds like it's
Use
unsightly.
it, but I don't know about all the equipment.
I thought we had allowed something, but I don't remember.
Can
Maybe
we-
it was a
check it.
temporary one-time for mulch or something like that.
Right, they wanted to
It's
bring
so
in
ugly.
dumpsters for mulch, I think it
Mhm.
was, right?
And it's been happening over the last several years.
Hurricane removal.
Okay, so we can agree
Okay.
that we're putting
So-
Celia in charge of researching it so that we'll
Okay.
have the facts.
There we go.
Sound good?
All right.
For the
That's it on the
minutes.
liaison reports. Financial review, Brian.
No, I'm not the treasurer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cindy. Oh my gosh, I'm just so used to saying Brian. Cindy, financial review.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy Swisher and I'm the new treasurer.
Hello, Cindy. Hi, Cindy.
Hello.
Welcome.
I feel like we're in an AA meeting.
Uh-huh.
We might need it at the end of
Yes,
this term.
They
So,
need to join one.
the last
No last name.
month and a half or so, I've been working with Brian. He was explaining to me his reports, his process, why he does things the way he does. In all fairness, he's a CPA. I am not. I worked at a bank, but nonetheless, I understand what he was doing and why. So we were going over January, and then we finally got the February financials on March 8th, which is quite late. But that was due to the fact that they're going through a conversion in the management company from GenArc to something called VMS.
Yep.
And whenever there's any kind of conversion of any kind of data, you have to go through it with a fine tooth comb. So in doing that, like I said, I was going over what Brian had done and what I had done. We found a variance in the maintenance line in January of $52,000 over what we had projected to budget. So when we investigated with the help of the, staff here, there's $47,000 worth of invoices for December that were paid in January.
Or recorded.
Recorded in January.
But paid in December.
No,
Probably, I don't know when they were paid.
I-
They were recorded in the January finance.
I'm guessing if they were posted in January, they were paid in January, that they just didn't,
Just,
Okay.
yeah,
they didn't
Don't know
show
for
it as
sure.
accrual or prepaid or whatever. So our choices are just to let it ride and know what it is so we can explain it, and then wait for the auditor to do whatever they do with it. Or the other option would be to ask CCMC to go in and correct it, because we could correct it. So then we would start off the first of the year without that large variance. So
What are you recommending?
go back and fix it. Mr. CPA?
Here's the reality. We can make CCMC go back and fix it with their new system. I sent you all the email. Neil wasn't sure how it worked with their new software. If we don't fix it, the auditor will fix it in the audited financials. We have had audit adjustments come to us. We'll have a $47,000 audit adjustment. Maybe we'll have others that come to us. Does it have any impact on cash or anything like that? No. Is it technically more correct to push it back to December? Absolutely. Are we a publicly traded company and stuff like that? No. So it really boils down to, do we want to push and shove this one, or do we let the auditor fix it and we know it's there?
Just for understanding, is it likely that most of management was out for the last 2.5 weeks of December, as they are annually, and it just wasn't recorded when it should have been? I mean, it could have been just a simple, I don't think it's as bad or big as large as it may sound
I
to
think
the public.
$50,000 is plenty. I mean,
No,
that's,
no, of
yeah.
course.
What
Yeah.
should have happened is accruals should have been booked with an accounts payable put up. That's what should have
Mhm.
happened. And my guess is people were out of here between the 18th and January 2nd or 3rd. The invoices were then found, they were approved, they were paid, they were received and dated in December, and that's what happened. And that's what happened.
Well, but
So
I
we
know,
should ask CCMC to fix it.
yeah, and I know, well, what I remember from when I worked there was that, I mean, at the very beginning of December, it was, hey, start looking for things that may not come in, that may not get here in time to get it posted in December like that.
What happens in a company like my old company is December.
Right, you gotta
books
sit up
do not
closer.
get- What happened in an old company, like my old company, which is publicly traded, is we wouldn't close the month of December until the middle of January, or January
to make
20th,
sure
something like
everything
that.
got in.
So that we would go through, do invoice searches and everything and do that. Obviously, none of that is happening. It seems just like the month ends, it closes, you go to the next month.
Mike, I've got a question about whether or not there's a deeper, it may be what Kevin's just described, a couple of weeks off. How close are we in timeliness to having reports? We're now at the end of April. What's the last set of reports that we have financially for what month?
We
Brian
have all of
mentioned in an
February.
email, I think it was February, you mentioned.
February?
Mhm.
Is that timely in your view or not?
No, it's
It
not.
would not be for my company.
No, it's,
No.
what should happen, I'll let Susanna talk here in a minute, but what should happen, the old standard was that you would expect to get financial reports within 15, 16, 17 days after the month. You would have expected to have March by April 16th or something like that. That would have included it being produced, coming to Susan Kearns reviewing it, who was a CPA, let's be honest. And then she would go back, have adjustments made, and then it would come back, and then it would come to me as the treasurer. And that's what should happen. I mean, we just haven't, we're not in that phase right now.
Well, I think what we were doing, we were on that train when we were doing financials. We would get about the 10th, we would do accruals, we would do the financials for the prior month, and then we would have that to you towards the end of the following month. But it was the amount of invoices being processed, it would get later and later. And finally we said, okay, well, why don't we do it like 2 months behind? So that's kind of where we've moved it to where now in March we do February's is what we post in the packet.
And was that explicit that we were going to go 2 months?
No. So let's be clear.
We still
We
provide
said that in the package, the board package, we'd have a 1 month lag
Yes.
just because it was so tight. To have a board meeting on the 23rd or 24th, you've got to have everything done a week of, and there was only a day or two. There wasn't enough time to allow the finance committee or anybody else to see it. So that became the issue. We should still have the stuff. I mean, you just said what I said. You said we do accruals up to the 10th of the month before. That's it means on January 10th, the December accrual should have been done. They just weren't done.
Well, and to explain to you, Kevin, so this happened, this all showed up in the January reports. And it's very easy, if you go line by line, you just go by categories. It's very easy to say, to look, say, because that's how I found it. It's like, wow, what's this? You know, so that's one of the instances where they would have gone and they would have said, nope, this needs to be moved, you know, back into December to make these January numbers correct.
Yeah, it's very often just administrative error where the somehow that invoice didn't get caught because you do have all your accruals by say the 10th, then you start working on your sheet, you submit them to corporate, they come back, you look at the variance again and everything's clear. So once in a while, sometimes you miss it, somehow it got lost. And so then when you get it, you've already closed the books for that prior month. And so it shows up later. And so it sets the numbers off. So if you want us to go back and fix it, we'll reach out to corporate.
Well, and then that way we can start, hopefully, at the end of March, we'll have a first quarter that's, you know,
Yes.
got all
I
the
think
bugs
the
worked out from the
challenge-
transition and all that kind of
The
stuff. that we
challenge
can-
for us will just be that now we have a whole new accounting system. So
I think,
everybody up there goes, you know. they're
so
just
if you
like,
can,
"Oh, it's
if you
something
can
else."
follow up with corporate and see if it can be,
Yeah.
see if it can be corrected because of the accounting change and get back to us, that would be
Okay.
appreciated.
Very good.
What I would appreciate in that question is how much work is it? I think right now, we can all safely agree that management is struggling with a million priorities. So if this is going to create 3 weeks worth of work, we as a board need to sit here and say, is it really worth it?
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you
we
for
think
that.
Susanna should sleep
Yeah.
And take some days off.
and take some days
Just a
off.
couple hours.
All right, so we do have Neil, who is online from somewhere, who has jumped on virtually, and we have a management report from Neil.
Do we have anything else on the financial?
No, that's it.
I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No,
I
that's
thought
all
you
right.
were
What,
done.
the one thing we'll add, what Cynthia and I talked about on the financials is next board meeting, we need to have March financials. We need to take a good look at the first 3 months with all the noise gone and say, okay, where the heck do we stand?
Okay,
Could I just ask what restricted replacement is versus other categories? We have a category called restricted replacement.
Yeah, which is the replacement reserves.
Okay, so it's
So the reason
Restricted.
we're calling it restricted is it with the change in March 2020 with the
Take out the
charter, you
contingency.
can only use those for replacement purposes
Okay.
now.
okay.
Is
All right,
that
great.
within
Thank
the
you.
chart? Okay. Okay, now let's move on to the management report from Neil. Are you able to unmute yourself, Neil?
I am,
Thank you for joining us. The
of
floor is
course. I mean, at previous months, I've just kind of read through it, but you know, our
It's in the
board's
board
smart,
packet.
right?
It's
Our
in-
board's smart.
yeah.
So how about this? Does the board have any questions or nuances I can try to provide more details or more of a narrative to if the paragraphs in this report don't make any sense?
I do have questions about the KPIs in the reports.
Go
Neil,
right ahead.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are these KPIs the ones that you've been referring to that were done as part of the UCF study? Is that what we're using as our measurement tools?
It's my understanding the KPIs that you get sent every month was the byproduct of the UCF study. So
Okay.
I'm going to say yes, Jackson, but with an asterisk because I wasn't here when you guys went through that
Okay.
contract and that KPI process.
Yes, Jackson.
But these are the KPIs that management is looking at and measuring. And so I think it's important for us and for the community as they look at these KPIs to see what's happening. And I want to draw your attention to a couple that are interesting to me. Under business office, and I don't know where exactly to tell you where to look on the packet, but
It's under management report and they
Under
click on
management report.
KPIs. It is on
Yeah.
page 110.
there is a section called homeowner calls and responses. I talked to Susanna about this. You'll see that in the month of March, it says there were 5,684 calls, number of phone calls answered. And I asked Susanna, is that really true? Did we really answer that or did those go to answering machines? And your response was,
When I clarified was that they were answered by somebody.
that's a staggering number. If those were actually answered,
That's almost
and I believe
double
you,
other months.
but that's a staggering number of calls to be answered by people. If you look at the numbers before, they were 2,000 the month before, 3,000 before. I think this is really an interesting KPI to watch to see what we're doing and in terms of how many people are in the office to answer calls and are you guys able to do anything except to answer calls? I mean, I don't know, what's the math of 5,000?
94 hours,
How many?
94 hours if each call got a minute.
Yeah, that's
That's
a
like
lot.
1.3 calls per home,
Yeah,
per homeowner.
It's crazy. I mean, that's just a,
So were there responses to these calls? Because a lot of residents say
These are answered phone calls.
they're
That's all it
answered.
is.
No,
That's
it
all is
says
answered phone calls.
calls and responses.
what's your assessment of that, Neil, that number?
I don't think that number's right. If we're just talking KPIs and we're just talking how they get measured, it's my understanding this number gets measured pulling from the phone system software. And I do not believe, especially with some of the turnover we've had recently and the backfilling, I just can't fathom that number is truly accurate. I think there may have been that many calls that came through in town hall. I'm not quite sure the software is intelligent enough to differentiate between answered, not answered, returned, dropped, etc.
Yes.
I could speak to yesterday. I tried to call Susanna. I lost her cell phone number for a minute. I called the desk up here 4 times. It went to the answering machine all 4 times. I listened just briefly and then hung up. If that counted as 4 calls in your 5,000, then 4 of them yesterday would have been me. And then
Right.
finally I found your cell number when I got it.
I shared it, sorry.
And that's because when people called, they're mostly getting the answering machine.
And then they're hanging up and they're calling again,
Right.
which is then makes the 2 or 3 times make a whole lot of sense to me.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
this is-
so we'll go back and look at that and see how the system is counting
Yeah, I would
those
que-
numbers.
If Neil questions that number, but I also understand that people are calling multiple times to try and get a response.
Yeah, I guess to clarify, I don't doubt that there was that much traffic,
Yeah,
but my gut tells me that is received calls, dropped calls, failed calls, unaddressed calls. And I think that also most likely, and I'm probably going to infuriate Patrick, but I believe that probably includes the calls initiated by my team and I as well.
Yeah.
So
That to me,
outgoing calls, not
yeah,
incoming.
that would make more sense to me than this was just a human that received another human on the phone at town hall nearly 6,000 times.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. If I could keep going, a couple of other KPIs that jumped out at me. If you go to community standards, and again, I don't know what page we're on, but there's one that's titled Community Standards.
Yeah, it is
And-
page 114.
Okay, and the activity is the very first one, complete inspection of properties. Number of inspections completed in March was 118. I asked Susanna about this, and your answer is better than the one I could paraphrase. You want to give it to us again?
This is like Jeopardy,
I
isn't
know.
it a little
Sorry,
bit?
I'm not trying to do that. I just think it's better to hear from you than to have me give you my interpretation. of it.
Okay, no, that's good. So I did talk to Jessica, the community standards manager, and we talked about the number of inspections that are taking place. And so that line is talking about the first inspections, right? And the letters that go out. And so of course that looks like a very low number, and it is. And so when you look at community standards, the department, everything they do, they're not just doing first inspections, they're doing re-inspections. They're doing, if a homeowner calls and says, well, we're done now, come inspect. And then you come in, it's not really done. So then you go back again, of course. Then there's resale inspections. There's new ARC applications. There's closed ARC applications. The list goes on. It's meetings, today's meetings, we did, probably 25. But in addition to that, we have 3 new members in that department that are less than 90 days in their positions. So we have a brand new team. Jessica's working so hard to make it happen, and they are really a good group of people. And so it takes, as we all know, trying to navigate through this community, it takes a while to learn it. And you have to produce the letters. So it's a brand new team. And I think you're going to see those numbers go up as the team kind of works their way through the kinks and gets a rhythm going and starts to move through faster.
So you
But,
have,
but
you have two full-time inspectors currently,
Yes.
and we're going to discuss that at a later action item on our agenda. So
I'll just help with the math, though. 2,600 homes, just single family homes divided by 118 would take 22 months to do every home once. I mean, this is the issue that we've been saying we've got to address.
right, and that
That's not a
is
criticism
no.
of any management employee. This is, we're not capable of doing what we say we want to do.
right, and that is why it's an action item on our agenda later this evening. Okay.
If I could keep going, the ARC process on that same KPI, administer ARC process, you'll see that there were 151 applications in March, 140 were processed. It's clear that there are far more ARC applications now than there were a couple of months ago. Thank you, COVID and HGTV. But I think it's interesting when you look at customer service below that, that 38% of the calls are covenants related and 62% are ARC related. And to me, that's a good leading indicator of where we're headed and why it's so important to have appropriate staffing and procedures. I know you've talked, Brian, about some thoughts about ARC. Okay.
Well, I'd like to say, if you look at the KPIs for previous months, you'll see, I know even during COVID, when we had the shutdown last April, ARC was the busiest department out of everybody, and we were just flying through it. And somehow people always have the means, no matter what's going on, to try to do what they can with their homes. And the calls that come in for ARC are always greater because, our design guidelines are very complex. There's a lot of questions. How do you get that application done right so that you can get it in smoothly and not have to deal with a lot of stuff? So, it's worth a lot of calls because we have 26 guidelines. There's a lot of questions in regard to that. So that makes sense.
I conducted grass research today with a member of the ARC committee.
Did you?
And,
And what was, and what
and
did
what
you
I can
find?
tell you is that they have caught up a lot of things. They had a conversation about changing processes. They were excited about it. Jessica's working on something, and and they know there's another candidate who's an architect who would be the 5th person. So they were pretty excited. I think there's potential. There's a lot of stuff going on in ARC for all the good, right reasons, and that's just life. But
And I would encourage the community to look at these KPIs. That's why we put this study together. I know, Kevin, I'm moving. So
No, you're fine.
the final KPI that I wanted to look at is on Parks and Rec, and then I promise I'm done. If you look at book setup and breakdown fields, you'll see that there's a gross revenue number there. What we don't have is a net revenue number. And I don't claim to be the numbers guy, but gross revenue without net to me is not very useful. We booked a lot of dollars. I don't know what it cost us to have those events. And so I've asked Susanna and Neil, by extension, whether or not we could add a net revenue item there.
So more of a bottom line
Yes.
Yeah.
picture than
Yeah.
just the gross. I agree, because the
Good.
gross doesn't really tell us much, although the gross is an indicator of how much labor, how much labor we used, how much setup and takedown we had. Okay, anything else on KPIs?
No.
Okay, anything else on our management report? No other questions for Neil on the management report?
Can I just confirm that Arias Bossinger is our only law firm handling collections at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you'll also notice if you go back and look in the KPIs, we did not file many intent to liens over the past few months. My understanding is that that activity is picking up, and of course, we've got some items on our agenda tonight.
We do.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so we have now made it to action items on our agenda. And based on our previous discussion when we started the meeting, 1A is now the approval of the resolution, the administrative resolution 18 for committee task force charter. And we have made the updates to this policy. I guess it's administrative directive to reflect current. The last time this was updated was 2012. So that is our next item, our action item. Do we have a motion regarding this resolution?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
There's just minor, I'm not sure if you guys have this noted on page 2. It still says updated 5/22/2012.
What's, are you looking at the one that's printed in
Oh.
front of you?
The heading.
There was a-
He's looking at the head, the header.
Yes.
I agree. I see that on page 2, the header, and actually on all the pages still says 5/22/2012.
21.
So that needs to be updated. Thank you.
And to that point, should the title, which is line 4, say April 2021 instead of May?
It should.
Because if it's approved tonight, it would be April
It would
still.
be- Actually, I would put April 28th, 2021, so
thank
let's
you.
be specific. Where, which part is that?
Line 4 on the cover,
On the very top.
it says May.
Oh, there. Okay, got
So
it.
I would put 4/28/21 to be more specific.
And then, and that same thing on line 5 on every other page.
Right.
But apart from that, I think. looks good.
We'd had our conversation. I updated it, I distributed it, and
Yeah, so just so we're not, yeah.
There's no, that's not a content item.
Yeah, this is, the board members have seen this. We've already reviewed it.
But we do have, am I missing something? I think we do have some questions about content in this.
Go ahead.
take it away.
We're in discussion.
Okay, so some of the things, and I'll just throw them out there. One thing that I still would like to find is what's a permanent resident. I don't have the answer to that. I'd like to know if that means 3 months, 6 months, if you pay your taxes in Florida, if this is your permanent residence or not. We use that term, but I don't know what it means.
Jackson, which,
Where's it
which,
specifically?
A, B, C, D, E, what?
I think
looking for it as
probably
well.
C, if you look at C1,
C1?
restricted
It
to
does
members
say-
and permanent residents. You'll see some comments in the annotated version.
It's my sense that my interpretation of that is owner.
Well, you could be an owner, but let's
And
say
not
you're
working.
here only 1 month out of the year and you leave your house vacant 11 months.
I
Should you
think-
be on a committee? Could you be on a committee?
I think I would allow an owner who is stuck with the bill for longer than a renter to be part of
Yeah.
that, regardless of how often they are or are not here, especially when it comes to our modern day ways of.
If you're an owner, you're an owner.
participating.
So
Owner's
the
owner.
question is, why are we using the word permanent? That would suggest something different. to
Yeah,
me.
it does.
To me, it suggests a renter.
So that could be
Okay.
something we update. yeah.
Well, because the
That's fair.
first part says members, and a member would be anybody. So-
Right.
So is it members and or members or permanent residents? Then
Well,
if it's a
yeah.
renter.
Who knows?
Well,
But I mean,
member
that's
of
how I
the-
always interpreted
A
it.
member of the association is probably what the member parts are.
Member is an
But then
owner,
it says
Right.
permanent
Owner.
residence.
Which is only an owner.
Do we want to change that to owners?
or just say to members in good standing.
Well, remember, we've talked about owners versus renters
Right.
being on committees, and we've said renters can be on certain committees. There's some that they're restricted for by the charter,
Right.
but I don't think our intent was to remove renters from consideration for the committee membership. That's my recollection from before.
I
Am
believe it
missing that?
was a priority,
Priority to
Right.
owners.
priority to owner at all
Mhm.
times.
That's right.
Right.
Can I ask
That
a
is right.
question? We're talking about this for the committees. Be a member in good standing, be an owner. Why is it when you run for CROA, you don't have to be an owner? It falls under LLC.
You're an owner in good standing, absolutely.
No,
An LLC member.
right.
is
That's what I'm
defined
trying to
under the charter.
understand.
If you are, well, I don't want to give legal advice.
Yeah.
I've heard Tom Slayton say
Mhm.
that if you are on an LLC as a managing director for the ownership of a property,
owner.
that makes you under 720 an owner.
So your name doesn't technically have to be on the title or the deed.
Has to be connected to.
Has to be connected. to
Okay,
connected to-
all right.
And that particular situation was even referred to Tom Slayton to
Mhm.
verify that it was correct, and it was.
Okay.
Right.
Just
No,
a question,
Okay.
whole new.
So did we have a recommended change to this as restricted to members and permanent residents to just members of CROA or members of the association or owners?
Well, part of what we had asked for was a request of Tom Slayton to give us a definition to make sure that we were within legal guidelines. I don't know what the definition is.
He has reviewed this.
Okay, and what was his answer to that?
He did not answer that specific
Nice.
question.
Okay, so.
What would
Membership on the
make you
committee
more
to-
comfortable? What wording would make you the most
members.
comfortable?
I think I would be better saying it's restricted to just members. Permanent residents, just suggest, I'm trying to remove ambiguity. There's a couple of places in here where I think there's ambiguity that causes us problems. And because committee membership is potentially contentious, I'd like us to be clear. If it doesn't matter how many months a year you live here, then let's remove it, right? If it matters to us how many months a year you are physically in residence, then let's put that in and specify it, right?
So
I mean,
then if it doesn't matter to us, it would just be
members.
members,
Right.
right?
And that goes
Which would
back to
exclude renters.
Members
Yeah,
and
renters,
residents.
I guess you'd have to say.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Can't we just take out permanent and just leave it members and residents?
Honestly, I would like
Just
that because
members.
permanent
Yeah,
is.
Permanent
Members
is,
and
who knows what
residents.
that means?
Okay.
Or
So-
just member.
What that implies.
Then you
is
could
just-
do
Members.
Residents will allow a renter, which is what we had said, because I
Yes.
thought in here
I'm
we
going to
also had
suggest for
word-
the purposes of working through this, that we make our modifications and then one motion to approve
Yes.
the
Yeah,
modified.
that- So, and it, so
item.
the
Is that okay?
modification, yes, I agree. So I was going to make the modification that says is restricted to members and remove and permanent residents.
Yes.
I thought we wanted to leave residents in.
No, you got to be a resident. I mean,
Yeah,
You have to be a resident,
yeah.
it says
not
so
an
members
owner.
and members and residents.
but
right?
she said to take out,
So it'll say members and residents, removing only the word permanent.
right.
Residents would include renters.
Yes.
Members would not. You're not a member of the
Yes.
association if you're
Mhm.
renting. Like,
so it would be
Correct.
members and
So the new line
residents.
is membership on the committee task force is restricted to
Right.
members
Yes.
and residents in good standing with alphabet soup. Okay, all right,
Alphabets.
all right. Any other changes?
yes, I have several.
I'm sure you do. Go ahead. Take that as a,
Fine. All right. We have comment B13 under item C6. C6 says the term of each committee member shall expire following the appointment of their successor. I would like us to be explicit that the committee membership does not expire until new members are approved by the board.
well, it does say until they, it already says that, following the appointment of their successor. Isn't that what that
What do you look,
means?
which number are you
Maybe
looking at
I'm looking
again?
at the
I'm
wrong
looking on,
C6.
it would be the second page,
C6.
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 So the term of the committee member shall expire following the appointment of their successor.
Sorry, my bad. Okay,
Okay.
great. Okay,
I thought we already had dealt with that one.
Okay,
That's why I'm-
Can I say, just to interject right here,
Yeah.
that B is actually an 8.
huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
B
Yeah,
is an 8.
yeah, that probably should be changed. Okay, Thank
Fixed
you.
Now.
okay.
So,
All right.
sorry about this. While we're on section C,
Yeah.
just for clarity, in item 1, if we use the word member, and then in item 2, member is referring to something different.
Yeah.
Member in item 2 and
Yeah.
throughout is about committee membership.
So that.
So
should
my
be changed
suggestion is to
committee-
change the word member in item 1
To restricted
to
to,
owners and residents
Yeah.
Because you also have 3 that turns around to say non-owners.
are permitted to serve
So-
on, it just clarifies it.
I agree with that because the rest of it does.
It's all
refer to
about members
committee
on the
members.
committee.
So membership on the task force committee is restricted to owners and residents in good standing is what number 1 says.
Yeah,
And then we have not made any further changes in that paragraph or in that
Right.
section.
right.
I would also
Okay.
point out in this same section that we are saying in item 9, and again, for the community's benefit, members may not serve on more than 2 committees or task forces at the same time.
And
Right.
that has been,
Right,
it has been in the resolution, but has not been enforced.
right.
And that does include CROA committees as well as Artisan Park Committee and subcommittees.
Right.
Or task forces.
Right.
Okay, just. to
And
clarify.
service area committees.
And service area, yes, that one as well.
Okay, if we go to section D as in dog,
Yes,
number 2, item C. What we now have is, as vacancies arise, eligible applicants will be considered based on the order in which they are received. I want to be explicit here that what we're talking about is a vacancy, not a
Mhm.
yearly process.
Right.
Right. During
how would we modify that to be clear? As vacancies
This,
arise?
this is only legislative history. I'm just
Okay.
trying to lay down a
Okay.
record that that's what our intent is, unless somebody on the board
agreed.
disagrees with that.
as the vacancies arrive during the year. or
Right, this
During
came
the
up
appointment
during our
year.
workshop,
Yeah.
and
right.
there was,
Yes,
Right.
there was
Considered-
confusion as to whether that was how we filled all committees, and that's not. That was how it was done one time.
So I'm gonna actually ask you a question then on that.
Mhm.
If I turn around and I say, hey, I'm on a committee, I'm going to resign, I'm going to call a friend up, I'm submitting my resignation, get your application in. That person is automatically on?
Will
well,
be
here's
considered.
the word
considered.
considered, I think
Considered.
is our key, right?
It shouldn't
No,
be
they're not
automatic.
automatically on.
Right. And I think that was the question that the homeowner raised to us. Their understanding was there was an automatic, just first in time, first in
Not
line.
first come first.
As it
But
comes
that-
in stamped.
That's clearly not what we're trying to
Yeah,
do.
It would said will be considered.
Right. So I just want to get on the record that that's
Okay.
not our intent
So
here.
no change, just,
I would not make a
just a
change.
statement
Okay.
for the record.
Okay.
Okay? Any other-
In item E, number 2,
Wait, excuse me.
Yeah.
Maybe we just want to take out based in the order in which is received.
Mhm.
Can we just say as vacancies arise, eligible applicants will be considered?
That's fine
That's
too.
good.
I mean,
And then there's no confusion.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Like
don't think we
that.
have to have that at all, actually.
I'm happy
Yeah.
with that.
Take it
I would
extra
love to
word.
get rid of
Okay,
that.
so
Take it
as
off.
vacancies arrive, eligible applicants will be considered, period.
Period. That's good.
Based on the order in
Good
which
change.
received.
We're taking
minute,
based
it's
on,
great.
we're taking
you.
all that out.
Good
Your
job.
next one was
Simplicity.
E2.
E2, which says that each committee has to consist of at least 3 members and no more than 7. I would like to add something that says something about consistent with the charter, because some of these committees are charter designed and have certain numbers. There might come a time when on a task force or something else, we might say we need more than 7. But in the charter, we've got some committees like finance and
Charter only
ARC.
limits ARC covenants and finance. It's the
Right.
only 3 that are specifically dealt with in charter.
Right, and I think I guess the question really I'm asking, Brian, is do we want to say all committees are restricted to 7 or just those charter committees restricted to 7?
Well, that the charter only restricts those committees. The other ones would be open to additional based on this
But
document.
as, well, no, it
That's not the way
wouldn't. It
that's written.
says,
So
How-
he's right.
Yeah.
How about a header in that sentence? Unless otherwise specified through the charter or board resolution, the committee task force shall consist of at least 3. ...
okay with me.
it's giving you 3 to 7.
Huh?
It's as long as it's between 3 and 7, you're fine.
What he's asking is, do you have to have a limitation of 7 for a committee if it's not specified in the charter?
So for
I
example,
believe you should. I
for-
believe
for-
there gets a
okay.
point, too many chefs in a kitchen.
okay,
Mhm.
so the way it's presently worded, I'm sorry, so. Sorry,
Someone's calling you.
several people from the committee are calling me. If we want to keep it at 7, then I think the way it's worded now is right. If we want the flexibility that there might come a time when we want more than 7 on some committee or task
Okay,
force
so
for
we
some
want
reason,
12. We want 12.
we would be unable to do it under this resolution, right?
Right.
Is
So
that
if we
everybody's
changed
reading of
it in chess,
I wouldn't-
well,
Pack the
I-
courts, guys, pack the courts.
I
Just
can't,
saying.
I can't envision a committee that we would want more than 7, but I can't predict the future either. So unless otherwise specified, the committee task force shall consist of at least 3 members and no more than 7.
Right.
If you do that, remember that opens it up potentially, because we could then specify we want more than 7.
We could,
We could.
but we would have to vote on it
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
you'd have to get a majority to agree on that.
That's
Right?
fine.
I just,
So 2 stays the same.
No,
No,
we
it does
added,
not.
we add a line that says unless otherwise specified, the committee task force shall consist of blah, 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 continues.
So we say unless otherwise specified.
In
In the resolution for a specific committee.
the charter or in the resolution
So, I
or
mean-
both?
Or
You're
either.
basically letting it happen.
Yep.
At that point,
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
then what's the point of having it at all in here? Just be honest, if somebody wants it, they now wrote their own guidelines. If we actually want this to stick,
Mhm.
we need to keep the guidelines specific 3 to 7.
What will we do if we don't have 3?
We,
You don't have majority.
well, there's no way to have, there is no committee unless there are
For a
3.
vote.
So can it say the committee task force shall consist of at least a minimum of 3 members and no more than 7?
Well, that's what it
At
says.
It says that.
So it
what it says
doesn't say minimum.
That
It
says at
doesn't,
least,
It
that's
says
the
at
same.
least.
well, no, because
Yeah,
you
at
want to
least
be,
3.
I
At
know,
least is the
I
minimum.
know it's
You like the
a
word minimum better.
minimum.
Well, what's the difference between at least and minimum?
Yeah, I think they're the same.
They're
You
the
want me to
same.
look it up?
No,
No.
I'm
Okay.
terrified if you look it up.
Okay,
You sound
so
like my lawsuit.
just to clarify.
Yeah.
Are we gonna leave unless otherwise specified in, or are we gonna take it out?
That's
Why don't
too
we not
much
have, why don't we
wording.
make no change?
Yeah.
No change.
Just for, just,
wording.
and then if we needed to, we'll just leave it clean.
Crossing
The
that out.
board can consider it again in the
Okay.
future, but the same way we
Yeah, I mean,
are.
we're, I honestly, this should probably be looked at every year.
Yeah.
Before we approve the committee resolutions,
Yeah.
as just to update
Yeah.
it, because
Okay, all
it
right.
had
Good-
gone
good
since
question.
two thousand
I
twelve
like
without
3
being
to 7. I
updated.
like 3 to 7.
I apologize for taking the board's time, but
You
I
go right
think
ahead. What's your next one?
my next one,
Because I knew you had one.
moving on, I do have more.
I do.
I'm in section G as in Gosh.
FG,
Okay.
yeah.
number
Wow, we jumped
4.
Going right to my
We
comments.
we skipped
Oh, I
a
am.
page,
I
2
am.
pages, G4, top of the page.
Bingo.
Bingo. On my bingo card.
Mhm.
This says that the committee or task force chair shall serve a maximum of 2 years as chair unless otherwise specifically approved by the board. I think it's important to point out, we have people who have chaired committees for years.
And we have never enforced
We've
that.
never enforced this. So if we put this in here, to me, that says we're prepared to enforce that, and that means there would be some changes in chairmanships on these committees potentially. Is that what we want to do?
Well,
And
I asked the question, does this go retroactive or does it begin currently?
Nothing in here says we're going to apply.
Well, we haven't appointed the
prospectively.
committees yet.
We have not, so does this, is
Why
this
do-
retroactive of the 2 years that they've already served?
Oh,
Or
that
do we
one.
start enforcing it now when the resolution is approved?
Good question.
How would we? Essentially, when it says specifically approved by the board.
Yeah.
When each chair is selected within their group, within their committee, and they come to this board, we are, in a way, approving it.
Yeah.
We didn't question it. We didn't say anything. We let it continue on.
Yeah.
What happens when somebody doesn't want to be a chair?
Yeah.
You
What
know,
happens
so
when
I-
somebody doesn't want to?
when
Doesn't wanna be
somebody
the
does
chairman.
not want to chair a committee.
Oh.
I mean, I don't disagree with what this wants to do, but I also see it creating challenges.
So what do you
if we
suggest?
enforce it. I like what it's trying to do.
It's trying
But
to
how?
create turnover
So
and
let's
new
talk-
ideas.
let's
I would
talk
like
about
to
it.
No
say that,
consecutive checks.
to Kevin's point, in the past, when I've looked at the past years and the resolutions have come up, the chair was already listed on the resolution because it did kind of just repeat and repeat. This time we put to be determined because it is often the choice of the committees to decide who is going to be the chair, and that may change year to year, correct?
Well, so let's take the finance committee. Finance committee's first chair was Brian Kinsel.
Mhm.
The second year, Brian Kinsel is not one of the 6 people and Cindy's the treasurer. So by charter, Brian Kinsel's not part of it. So now everybody wants Brian Kinsel to be the non-voting chair because people want Brian Kinsel to be the chair. You can say no, at which point you'll have a lot of people saying, well, I'm not sure I like that. With everything that's going on, we want Brian Kinsel there. And I've just used it because I can personalize it about myself. There could be that same situation with other people. And then you end up with people finding ways to cheat the system. Are we really trying to outsmart the system? Or if somebody is good, why do we care? I mean, and that's my question here.
I think your better way around this might be within after the first meeting of a committee, the chair will be presented to the board for approval.
Mhm.
Something like
I like
that.
that.
I like
Okay.
that a lot.
That's
The
good. So
committee?
then the chair doesn't get listed on the resolution necessarily.
That might, I don't know how to
It's not
properly word that,
necessary.
but
Well, you actually
Along those
worded it
lines.
pretty well there.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like that.
so are we taking number 4 out?
Take number 4 out. and
I would
replace
take it
what
out.
Kevin said.
Okay,
What'd you
so
say,
let's go
Kevin?
back.
What'd you
No, we
say?
have it recorded. I'll get back
Okay.
on
After,
that.
So-
after the first meeting,
The committee will select the
Committee
chair, and the
recommendation for
board
chair will
will
be submitted to the board for
ratify it or
approval.
approve it. Perfect.
So just to clarify, y'all, the chair does not need to be listed on the resolution.
No.
to
No.
have it approved.
No.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay, next, this is going to be the sticky one. I'm in section H voting. And you would see before we had a discussion or a question about conflict of interest. What we've said is that you have to have a quorum and you have to disclose any relationship that would be financial, that kind of a conflict. Here's my question, and I'm treading on touchy ground. Frankly.
Excuse me, which one you
I'm in
want?
section H voting.
H,
There is
number
no,
two.
Okay, I see.
there's nothing specifically here about conflict other than financial conflicts, which I think are obvious. At various times on this board and others, there have been questions about whether or not there is a conflict between married individuals or family members serving on particular boards. There were questions about whether or not someone could serve on a service area committee if they had a spouse on CROA, or if someone could serve on CDD and they had a spouse on a committee. It's my view that we continue to exacerbate that problem by not defining what we think a conflict of interest is.
We already have defined that husbands and wives can serve. That
Then
has
I think
been
we need
direct-
to be explicit about that. It does not say that to my knowledge in this document.
It does not, but we have cleared that with the attorney that he said that is fine, that husbands and wives can serve.
Mhm.
But it does say only one resident, one owner per committee or task force.
Right.
So two cannot be on the same committee or task force. if
And
they
I
own the
think,
same one.
doesn't it say that you can't have spouses where one is on the board and one is on covenants? I
That-
think
that is
that's
a- that is a
clearly
law.
mentioned.
Yes, that's
That's
a
seven
state law.
twenty, I think.
Yeah.
But here's our problem. Let's say you've got someone serving on a service area committee and then they've got a spouse that's on CDD or CROA. Is that acceptable or not? And I'd like to hear from Kevin, because I know this was a concern you had a couple of years ago.
I believe that I'm just pulling up some old emails and I know I have several. One based on Tom Slayton, our attorney, discusses the Florida statute placing responsibility for disclosing conflicts of interest, who may have a financial interest in the contract or transaction. If a board member or committee member in that aspect does not disclose their financial interest in a contract or transaction that benefits from them, is unknowingly approved by the board member, may be liable for non-disclosure and self-dealing. So I believe as long as somebody is not, that I understand
Right.
has been the definition of conflict of interest.
Right.
So there is
in
no, so
our-
it doesn't specify that a conflict of interest is between two family members serving on different committees.
I do
So
not see
It only
that.
specifies
I would
on-
like us to be explicit that it is not a conflict of interest for two family members to serve on anything that's permitted outside of the statute.
Covenants.
And the reason I want this is that this is an area of deep discussion and discord in certain parts of the community. And I'd like to remove that by simply saying it's okay, unless we think it's not okay. And if we think it's not okay, then let's just say you can't do that. I don't, that's not my sense of the
Right,
board, but
right.
I'd like us to be really clear about this.
I thought the only conflict of interest we had to worry about
Okay.
was, I thought the only conflict of interest we had to worry about was specified by 720 as
Yeah.
financial conflict.
And
of
I think
interest.
that's all
And that's
naturally within this document.
And
So
I
I think
agree.
we said okay, I'm sorry, say that again. I was fixing a Zoom problem.
I don't think we should muddy it anymore. I think
I think if we say
it's
something
clear
about it.
that we operate under the statute and the definitions are within.
Just leave it.
Mhm.
You're in the H?
I'm in H where we don't
Well,
say
there
what the
is, he
conflict
wants
is.
to
besides-
add something to H.
Well, I
There's
know, but
nothing
what
in
is
there.
that, what we're talking about have to do with voting?
It just
Well-
says you must disclose the
Yeah,
relationship.
because it,
That's
you
all.
can't, it basically ties in
Voting on
conflict
your
of interest
financial interest.
because you're
I'm
voting, so you
saying-
can't vote on a financial
I'm
interest.
trying to have this conversation as obliquely as I can.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do here. There are clearly situations in which we have active families and spouses who are involved in various levels of governance and celebration. From time to time, there are criticisms leveled and accusations made that that is a conflict of interest. I just want it explicit in this document that it either is a conflict of interest or it isn't. Right now, what we've got is a non-definition or a negative definition by saying it's not covered under 720. that still makes it possible for people to claim there is a conflict between party A serving on this committee and party B serving on this board or committee. And I don't think that's our intent. I really don't believe that's what the board is asking for. And I'd just like it to be clear, because I think we could reduce some of the tension that comes with that if we just say it.
Can't we just say it's not after the?
I'd like the wording to say there is no conflict of interest
Conflict of interest.
when family members serve on committees and boards other than what's subject to section 720. That's all I'm asking for.
I don't know what the bigger elephant is. And maybe if I did, that might help me.
Again, and it has come up that, husbands can't serve where wives are, in the same.
If you're gonna
So-
add a
so
sentence,
To move that forward,
Yes.
perhaps the location for that is under membership.
C, it should be under C.
That's
That's where
what
I
I'm
was just
thinking.
looking.
I don't care where you put
Yeah,
it.
so I would think
So
there's
where
some
would you?
language that says to the spirit that the only members must disclose, I mean, you can leave it where it is for voting, but members must disclose,
Well,
It
this-
needs to be
members
in
are all-
C.
Maybe.
Membership is-
Hold on.
no, I'm just thinking on.
Yes,
it's-
because
under-
5 talks about one
Yeah.
member per residence may be appointed to serve on a committee task force.
There
And
is
the
no
next line-
conflict of interest.
Yeah,
Then number 6 could be, or whatever.
exactly.
There's-
There's no conflict of interest. A
When,
conflict of
That's very
interest is
interesting.
defined by
Very
720.
interesting.
so, all right, so let me
Okay,
give you
hold
one,
on. What exactly do you want? What exactly wording are you requesting?
no conflict of interest exists when family members serve on committees and boards as long as they are in compliance with section 720.
Well, can I back up then and
Sure.
try to help me understand a little bit more?
Sure.
C5, only one member per
Right.
residence may be appointed to serve on a committee task force. Again. it's
That's not
something
a-
that
that's
we
not
haven't-
the issue.
Specific, on a specific
So
committee.
I can't have I can't
In
serve
other words, you
with
can't
my
have,
husband on the same committee.
yeah, on the same committee.
On
And
the
if we
same
need to
committee.
clarify that more, we can't.
Yeah, I think it's per committee task force instead of on
Appointed to serve on a specific.
or on a
On
specific.
the
or on an
particular, on the
individual.
same.
individual.
On the same.
On the same.
Because I could read that
Yeah,
as.
no, I understand what you read.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. I can see it that way.
So
So
if we
On
would
a
change that
specific
one-
committee.
Yeah, so would that one, number 5 would change, only one member per resident may be appointed / serve on the same committee / task force.
Yes.
Then the next one would be,
Well, just
If we
continue that
continue.
exact
or
same
just stay in
sentence,
there, just stay
and
in
then
that.
Stay in that
multiple
sentence.
members of a household may serve on different committees / task force
as long as
Boards.
it,
as long as it is in keeping with regulations 720 of the
Yeah,
Florida. blah, blah,
that's,
blah.
that's the way to say it.
Okay.
So I think relocating it
I
helps.
can't write that fast.
Well, we've got to
Multiple
tape.
We got
members,
to tape.
It's
We got to
there.
record it.
okay, so multiple members of a household can serve on different committees,
Committees
task
and
force, or
board.
boards while following
As long as they're
as a-
following.
section
In
Do you want me to
accordance
be
with
more
7.
specific? Are you still?
Actually, because I want to be clear that, let's say I'm going to do this example. One member of a household is on the covenants committee and the other is on the ARC committee.
It's legal,
That would be legal,
That would be.
Legal and okay.
but not covenants and CROA.
not
because of
covenants and
720.
CROA.
Right.
That's against the law.
Right, but those two specifically,
So let's say,
It's okay.
And I
let's
don't
say
think we
that
need to-
we've got one family member that's on a task force making rules, and the spouse sits on the committee that has to enforce those rules.
It's okay. According to the law.
According to the law, it's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
And if we say it, if we're explicit about it here, then it takes it out
But
of
we-
the,
but we- but we've
realm
been
of debate.
explicit. We say as long as they're not on the same committee.
correct.
Yes,
On the same committee.
right. That is.
It would also mean you could have spouses sitting on CROA and CDD, which has happened in the past.
That's right.
I mean, there's any number
we
of
know
ways
nothing
that
can
this.
be done about that, yeah.
Right, and there's
We've got
not,
legal
there,
opinions.
there is not a conflict of interest legally by the, it's not a conflict.
In
of
fact, you could
interest.
have somebody sitting on CROA and CDD at the same time. We had that
That's right.
circumstance.
That's right.
So I just think this gets us out of the muck of some
Okay.
of this stuff.
That's right.
All right,
Okay.
so
That's
are we
fine.
going, so we're
All right.
gonna make that change to add another line to that that says multiple members of the household.
I know you'll all be thrilled to hear that was my last change.
Thank you.
Well, You pretty much nailed the list of questions I had.
Okay,
There was
are there
one
any other
item-
questions?
There was
Okay.
one item that we needed
you didn't look at, Suzanne, or have somebody look at, if you look at the whereases, we
Yeah.
put
Oh, they're
different
wrong.
ones in brackets there, because these whereases were related to the sections when it was in 2011 with a different charter. So we
Oh.
need to update
Reference the
that
new
to what
charter.
is the proper reference in today's charter.
Yeah, you
Okay.
used up all your time for tonight.
Yeah, I'm done.
Just so you know.
You can go home now.
One more. I feel like,
I have a
I
stopwatch
feel like
over
I'm
here.
an attorney.
Well, and the
Yes.
only reason I'm bringing this up
That's
is because of
I think
the,
it's a- I think
of
it's a
the
good change.
situation that Jackson just mentioned with someone sitting on the CROA board and somebody sitting on the CDD board. That's what you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
So do we want to expand that to say, or other?
Well, we don't have access,
We
we don't
don't-
have
we don't
control.
have- we
don't have
over
authority.
CDD. I'm
We
just-
don't-
I'm
That's
just
an
using
elected,
we don't have
it's an
authority.
elected position. So
I,
we
I
don't
was
have
just
any
making the
control.
example that conflict of interest
All
is a very broad term that can be used as a political football. I know this will stun some of you, but I'm trying to reduce the tension here,
No, I think
not
that-
No,
increase
that's
it.
good.
Honestly,
It's a
that
good
takes, that
clarification.
takes the whole question off the plate.
Oh, thank God.
I think.
One,
Okay. Yes.
one final thing on this. We mentioned CCS throughout this entire piece.
Mhm.
Prior to 2 years ago, CCS could have been many people, including people outside of the community, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It is now arranged
whole.
that CCS
Is just-
is the members of this board.
Right.
Yeah.
And only. Do we remove all this conversation about CCS within this document?
Is there a reason really to remove it?
I don't know if it's relevant. And I believe that it is the only item where it brings back to C2, which states members must reside in celebration unless approved by the board.
Well, CCS, because we're a committee of the whole, I guess we're required that, CJC would be different, but
Yeah.
we don't have authority over that.
Right.
Well, CCS is a board. It's not a committee.
It's
So
the same.
We
board
are a
as-
committee of the whole that
Right.
meets as CCS board.
Yeah, it's
We're
a
the
board.
only,
We are-
we
we
are
are-
the
We are the
CCS board,
CCS
Yeah.
board.
and we have no
But what's to
members.
say that in the future sometime, we wouldn't want to appoint a committee for something, I don't know what.
We can't because there's no members of CCS.
There are no
No.
There are
members.
only
Yeah.
the 7 of us, and
That's
that's
it.
it.
So there's no committee to report to.
Madam
make.
Treasurer, you're going to enjoy CCS so much.
I mean, if
I
there's
don't
no
know.
need for it, that's fine. I just,
I don't know if there's
know
any
that-
reason really to take it out.
a lot of this
I
was
mean, I don't think
created
it,
Oh, I know.
before then.
it's a little redundant, but, all right. All right.
So I
we
I
have
move to
made-
approve the document as amended.
Okay, and we had a second. I don't remember who
No,
said.
We need a new second because it's.
Okay, so
been
we're
amended.
going to have,
I move to approve the
Chris-
document as amended.
okay, and we have a second from David,
Yeah.
who's getting his coffee. And we're all gonna need coffee, and luckily they brought
Would
caffeinated
you like some
beverages
coffee?
tonight. No, I'm good for now. Thank
The
you.
only thing I ask, please, is that the revised one be sent to every board member and every board member say
A quick
yes
review.
or no. It's
Yeah.
just so that
We got
everybody
it
is
after.
comfortable, the
fine.
conversation
That's
is
good.
properly reflected.
So I would modify my motion, subject to final approval by the board members of the
right.
final copy.
I would agree with that, because we did make a lot of adjustments,
Yeah,
and she'll have to listen back and
Yeah,
make sure.
I'm
Okay,
second on that.
all right, I'm gonna call the vote. We're moving forward. David.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Cindy.
Yes.
Brian.
Yeah.
Celia. And Kevin.
Yep.
And I am a yes as well. The motion passes. And that may be, I don't know if that's the toughest one we have all night, but.
We're not even.
I don't know,
paid
6:20 and we're on 1A.
We haven't paid it anyway.
Okay, but we do have
And
a
ladies and
strategy.
gentlemen, tip your waiters. I'll be here 3 years.
All right.
Well, longer if you keep going at this rate.
Okay, so we do have, the next item on our agenda is to approve the committee resolutions for the 2021-2022 calendar year. Do I have a motion to make a consent motion to approve covenants, ARC, finance, recreation, special events, dog park, and technology in one motion?
Yes.
I'll get to that in a minute.
Yes.
thought-
So
I thought-
moved.
So 2 through 7.
Consent agenda, which is really 1A or 1B.
1B
1B
through
through
item 7.
7. I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
What about the condo council?
We're not, we'll get to
Not
it.
yet.
We're not, we're doing.
Yeah.
So doing
Those
two-
are the
I was
regular
gonna do that
standing
with,
committees.
yeah, that's fine.
For
Yeah.
clarification, just for, I mean, I believe for the public, there really hasn't been any changes from prior years on any of these except for referencing this document
They
that we
have
just
been-
went through.
And clean, and some cleaning up,
And minor cleanup, no.
nothing substantive,
Right, they have been cleaned up and.
some
they-
cleanup and making it a little more
and-
current.
And they will be redated and,
Yeah, Diana, your vote was and redated according to the resolution.
yes, so all, and then we also, the one thing we did add to the resolutions, which is different, is that all the committee business has to be conducted on our Microsoft platform using townhall.celebration.fl.us email addresses. So everything is
And
now.
filing minutes and.
Yes,
Excellent.
those have been the changes, and
Pretty-
will update every resolution to reflect the resolution that we just approved with that date. Okay, so we have a motion?
We have a motion and a second.
and we-
Celia,
And we have a second from Celia. Okay, I will go ahead and call
Can
the,
I ask what the motion is again?
yes, go ahead. The motion is to approve item 1B through item 7, which takes us through the Technology Committee resolution. And it has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? We discussed,
Is there a reason why the condo council resolution?
I was
is
just
not
gonna do
included?
that one next.
yeah, because it's not a regular committee. And it's just different.
We're all pretty passionate. I'm not isolating it
We've
out.
we've had a lot of complaints about you too.
I was just gonna do that one on the next motion. I guess we could do
We
it,
just need a
but
motion to consolidate them all first. You did that already?
we said we're gonna approve them in one joint,
Well, we
one joint motion.
you do the first and second, you're opening it for conversation.
Yes, I have opened it for conversation and we had the conversation, so.
I'd like to ask for a friendly amendment that we add the condo council resolution to this.
Okay. Would you like to
I'm
add,
okay, I'm okay with that.
then we'll go down through number 8.
And Celia, you okay with that?
Yes.
Good,
Okay, sorry.
done.
My error.
Originally.
Okay, with the
You take a
adjustments.
bio break and this is what happens.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Okay, I'm gonna call the vote. David,
Yes,
Jackson,
Yes.
Celia, Cindy,
Yes.
Brian,
Sure.
Celia,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Diana is a yes. Motion passes. We're now on number 9,
Look at us go.
which is our service area committee resolutions for Oak Pond, Parkview Garden, Park Lake, Spring Lake Gardens, Spring Lake Townhomes, South Village Townhomes. So that takes us down to number 13. Those
so
are-
move to combine those 9 through 13.
I have a second.
I will.
Any discussion?
I'm glad to see these moving forward.
I would just point out that in our management report, we've got some service area monthly board reports that show us operating cash and equity and replacement reserve cash. And I would just point out that in several of those service areas, we've also got information about the roofing litigation and our desire to create service area committees for each of those. Do we have any update at all? Have we gotten any interest from the other couple of service areas for committees?
Not yet. They are putting together some e-blasts and also preparing the work for future voting.
Thank you.
And we'd love to see more of them. We'd love to see all the service areas with committees.
Yes.
Would that be the
Yes.
spirit of your,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, which could be approved at any time.
Yeah,
as
along
they
the
come
way.
Together with a service area committee.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
actually did already send the e-blast out to all the other committees about a month ago saying, did you know that you have you can have a service area committee? Are you interested? And only one service area reached out. So-
okay?
And it was only one person too, so. That's the big.
Maybe we
thing.
do it again and keep trying.
Yes.
Okay, just a point of order to clarify. We have the motion to combine these into one motion. Do we need to approve that motion and then do the approval?
No,
or
It's
do
a
we-
no.
consent agenda.
It's a consent,
Consent
okay.
agenda.
I just want to make
You're
sure that
good.
I don't
You're
need
good.
anything
That's
that can
my
be come back. All right, so I'm gonna, any further discussion on these? I'm gonna call the vote. David?
Yes,
Jackson?
Yes.
Celia?
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Diana? Yes. I mean, yes, motion passes. I'm gonna get you two
Why
back.
we
I'm
need a
gonna,
microphone right there.
okay.
You need
All
a
right.
headset.
The next set of,
I'm going to move to table items 14 through 18. Is that right? No, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry, I revoked that. That's
okay,
not what I mean.
these are the
Okay.
resolutions.
okay.
Yeah.
These
sorry.
are the resolutions for the Artisan Park.
Sorry.
The first one is for the Artisan Park Task Force Subcommittee. That's the policy, I'm sorry, the Artisan Park
I'm
Policy
gonna-
Task Force Subcommittee Resolution.
I'd like a consent agenda for items 14 through 18. These are all related to artisan park committees. I'd like to put those together as one consent item.
So number 14 through 18, do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Cindy, thank you. Any discussion on these resolutions?
It's my understanding that these have been through the board's, to CROA's attorney for review.
Yes, they have been. And I will, this is the first time that Artisan Park, we have put them as part of the process that we should have been following all along. And now we have asked them for their resolutions and they've been very forthcoming. They've got their resolutions pulled together quite quickly. Thank you very much. And got them so we could get them on this agenda with the rest of the resolutions. I see a hand, Kevin.
I'm just seeing reference in this, and I don't think I noticed it in the other ones about the charter from 5/22/2012. That date is going to be updated, correct?
Yes,
Yes, it
that
will
will be updated with the 4/28/21 date.
And also the heading B in some of
Yes.
them. The
Yes.
And
Section
is-
B.
Those corrections
heading.
will be made.
Is this not the first time that Artisan Park has actually had subcommittees like this?
No, they've
And-
had subcommittees,
Oh, I'm
but
sorry.
they are operating
Thank you.
without
That's fine.
authorization.
Yes,
Without
I
approval,
do
they
believe,
weren't.
yes. And I
Thank
don't
you.
know for how long, but they have had those committees
you.
that have been functioning. But
Okay.
we wanted to make sure that we approve those
Yeah.
committees to make sure that they are covered under the umbrella of CROA as directed for our charter
Yeah.
and also under our B&O insurance coverage
I would-
for the direction.
I would also note that item 14, which is the policy task force, is a limited life.
It is.
And that chart, that resolution makes that point. It is not an ongoing perpetual committee. It is a task force.
Yes, as a task
Yeah.
force means it has a limited time period.
Can I-
Okay.
Can I
Yes.
talk about insurance just a little? Because I'd like to actually say this on a recorded meeting.
Yep.
I would like to say this on a recorded meeting.
Go right
Let me
ahead.
talk about insurance. We followed up with Lou Byron, who is our insurance agent. And even in some of the in some of the sessions that Cindy and I went through, people know Lou. A lot of people use him. He's got a very good reputation. From an insurance perspective, our policies cover both committee members and volunteers. So, but what you have to do then is the board needs to be able to point to say something and say, yeah, this person really is a committee member. So that is the reason why we're doing this. If we have volunteers on an event on the CCFC or something like that, we probably should have some way of knowing these are our volunteers even, because it's just good for our protection so that a resident or somebody else doesn't just sue us and say, I was out here as a volunteer and so I should be covered. So I think a little more structure there would help, but that's the reason we're doing
Yeah.
this.
Yes, and I feel very confident and appreciate that we've moved forward with this. Okay, so we did not vote on the
Kevin.
Artisan Park. I'm sorry, Kevin.
And as we update the Artisan Park Policy and Rules Task Force, page 2, underneath the header, it actually drops off Artisan Park and it only goes to Policy and Rules Task Force underneath CROA. Can we have that properly reflected
Which
in the
one? sorry?
title?
Yeah.
So I'm on page 212, 212. Just in the header, it's something so minor, but that's the signature
Let's
page.
make it. let's
I
make
also
it
think it's
right.
important to say with this particular task force,
Page
that
22.
they do not have the ability as a task force to change any rule that's inconsistent with the charter or the supplemental charter.
Correct.
And
Oh.
we've communicated that, I think appropriately, but I'd like to be clear that it is a
On the-
limited charge to that subcommittee or that task force.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion. We have a second to approve the Artisan Park resolutions, items 14 through 18. Okay, any further discussion? I'm going to call the vote. David,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Celia, Kevin,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. So that passes. Those resolutions have been approved. Now, we did ask that those committees that were up and functioning before the approval, we did ask for them to stand down until the approval of their resolution and also the approval of their applicants. Okay, number 19, we have already moved. No, number 19 no longer exists. So we are now to review of the covenants committee applications and applicants to fill the committee we just approved for 2021 and 2022.
And I would move for a consent agenda to approve items 20, 21, and 22.
That would be the covenants committee, the special events committee, and the technology committee.
I'd second that.
Give me a minute. I'm
Yeah, we gotta catch up to you.
Darn thing, there's so many.
Yeah, this is our board packet is 426 pages long.
And just to be clear,
Yes,
the
you
number of applicants are equal to the number of seats, no
That's my
more.
understanding.
Equal
That
or
is
less,
true.
equal or less.
So
We had made the decision,
as
just to get this on the record, we have made the decision that tonight, we would, any committee that had the equal number of applicants versus the amount of seats available on the committee, we would consider those applications tonight. And that at our next workshop, any committee that had an overage of applicants versus committee seats, we would review those at that next workshop based on the resolution that we just approved. So these are the only committees that will be filled tonight that are on the agenda, and the other committees will be filled at our next workshop. Just to clarify. Cindy.
So, and I'm working off a list I got a while back. Covenants Committee, 7 members maximum. There were 6 currently sitting. We had an application from someone.
Yes,
And so that person now becomes part of that committee.
yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Damn it.
That's all right. No, you like I said, there, just for the residents online, there's a lot of pages to go through. as
So
we
that
review this.
same person also requested to be on the special events committee. That new person.
Is everything in here consistent with the grid that I put together? Nothing changed? Remember how I did that
Here's
Excel
the
grid?
grid, yeah.
Yes. I've
Because
got
on
that.
that one, we looked at who's on multiple stuff. I'm asking.
because I was looking at multiple checkboxes on the
I
application.
added the Artisan Park ones and I added some of the technology.
And they were on
And that
my
was it.
grid, but nothing changed from that grid I had.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
Okay, so on the special events committee, we currently had 5 renewing. And the same person who I just asked about for covenants is now going to be on the special events committee as well.
And they can be on up to,
Okay,
Up to
just-
2.
Just verifying.
that's okay. No, that's
Wait,
fine.
you said special events has a new, I have 6. You say special events has a new person?
I'm pulling
I
up
have a list that
Susanna's.
has 5 people.
Susanna
then
sent a
a new
lovely
applicant.
spreadsheet, so let me.
I
find it.
have the graph that Brian sent and it
Yeah, I've
says
got 6.
6.
I think Susanna sent this one.
That's an old one. Brian had done a grid
Mhm.
and then I added Artisan Park to it and then I added one person for technology. So I think what they're referring to, Cindy, is the grid that Brian sent out.
No, yeah.
You have it. You
Is this the
printed
grid
it.
as of April 21st?
Yes.
Thank you.
So if you wanna
So
look
it
at-
shows there's only, for special events, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members. Doesn't show anybody being new.
It's loading.
Yeah.
Hold on. There is a new one.
On special events?
Special events.
So it's
number
not on
6.
Brian's,
No,
That's why I was asking.
Yes.
I don't have the
Mm.
grid, by the way, so.
You don't have the grid?
I'm off the grid, y'all.
This is the one that you created, I created based on Brian's.
Celia,
I have the grid.
You have a new
We
grid?
have the
do you
grid.
know who we're talking? I'm gonna tell you who we're talking about.
No,
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 down.
Is there a new grid?
This was just
Yeah, I
one
don't
that I
have
took off of yours that created off of.
Does the
Just
grid
what you
match what's in
had
our board
just for
packet?
voting.
this person, 1, 2, 3.
So we're
4,
voting on
5,
what's in the
6,
board
7,
packet, not
8,
what's on the
9.
grid.
Yeah.
This person
You need-
applied for, covenants,
We had one
And
person that was
lifestyles.
free and.
and
that's
it.
Yes, and that was.
Oh,
and
it
that-
shows, Brian, when you did the graph, it shows that this person. I'm sorry.
You're like.
Okay. So this
You're killing-
person applied for covenants, but it shows on the grid that Brian made that they're already a member on special events.
It said, no, on it says they are not a member and they are on,
See, this is the grid
Doesn't
Brian
they are
matter.
on
sent.
special
Doesn't
events
matter
and
what the grid
covenants.
says.
Can you
Yeah.
send your grid around, Diana?
Yeah.
We're
let me
voting
see.
on we're voting on what's in the packet, not the grid.
I
The
can't
grid is a
because she sent
convenience
it to
chart.
me. Hold
Vote on what's in the packet.
Okay,
Hold on, she sent it to me password protected, the updated one. I need to share it, so we are looking at the same thing, which I thought we were, but let's move forward.
I know.
CROA.
It's on me.
We're reviewing special events.
You
Okay,
can call the question.
you should have an email if you have access at this point, showing an updated grid.
Is the grid important?
Well, did you have questions about this one person that's on both? So.
So what?
But it's still, but she's still eligible.
It's
yeah.
eligible.
Yes, she's still.
What's the
yes,
conflict?
Right, there is no conflict because she can be on, this person can be on 2 committees and that's. and
Call
has
the
applied for
question.
2 committees.
No, wait
Okay.
a minute, wait a minute,
You
I'm not
just called the
done.
question.
I'm not done.
Okay.
So then on the technology committee, I see 6 people, 4 that are currently on it and 2 more that have applied.
I have on the current grid, which I don't, not sure what you're looking at, I have
5
5.
I have 5.
1, 2, 3.
So in other words, the
I
grid
have
is
4.
outdated from the 21st
Well,
because there's been
but what I
changes.
There
did
has
is
been
I went
changes.
through the board packet and I added to this from the,
Yeah, so I have 4.
So if you would like to come, you have,
Okay.
you don't have the computer, so let's check it off.
This is the one.
'Cause you're looking
Brian
at two
made
different
on
things.
21st.
Okay, so on technology.
these
Yes,
2.
1, 2.
We're gonna have
Yeah,
to
this
have meetings
one
at
doesn't look-
4.
this is not
Okay.
Okay, clarified?
Yep.
Okay,
Technology
We
is
have
one of our
clarified.
cornerstones, right?
we have clarified.
Call the question.
Okay,
We're good?
I'm calling the vote. Okay, so we are good on, what did we just say? Just make sure. Say
20,
this.
21, and 22.
20, 21, and 22. That gets us through technology.
You got to call.
Yes.
David, Jackson,
Yes.
Cindy.
Yep.
Brian,
Aye.
Celia.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. Motion
right to it.
passes. Wow, we've now moved on to,
Halfway through.
are we halfway through? Oh, gosh, help. me. There's still a lot more that we can do as consent agenda. Okay, so we are now on number 23.
I
And
move
this,
to consolidate on the
Thank you.
consent agenda items 23, 24, 25, and 26. These are all Artisan Park subcommittee applicants, and these are all committees or task forces in which the number of applicants is equal to the number of spots open. So there was no excess to be considered.
Good.
and there was no conflict based on numbers of committees that these people have volunteered to be on.
That's
Do
my
I have a
understanding.
second on that motion?
Yes.
So
Okay.
can I just ask a question? So
Yes.
we're approving all the applications that we have for these committees tonight.
Well,
Yes, we
the
are.
number,
Well, there's not
so
overage.
for example, in one of the committees, there's 5 members,
Right,
5 spots, and they had 5 applicants, and there were no excess.
okay.
So any place where there was an excess of applicants over members, we are not dealing with tonight.
Those
So
committees.
this
will-
is to
Got it.
allow, in Artisan
Okay, I
Park's
understand.
case, this
Okay.
is to allow
She's
some of
good.
their subcommittees
She's good.
to begin.
Yes, so we are not.
Same
yes.
true for our
To
committee.
allow them to get back to work.
So
So
me,
we are
yes.
approving the Policy and Rules Task Force, the Artisan Park Communications, the Artisan Park Maintenance, and the Artisan Park Finance. I'm calling the vote. We have a motion and a second.
I have a
Yes.
question. Hold on.
Okay.
Clarification. I'm listening to you so much. I'm saying I have
I'm
a question.
Want me to sit on the
That's
left
gonna
side
be
here?
her.
I love this
have a
new
question.
shyness of yours.
I'm trying
Right?
I'm trying,
Is a, no, I appreciate it. Is a realtor a conflict of interest? Not to go back to that.
I knew we were coming there.
No, it is not.
It is not. We are all, okay.
I mean, unless they stood, well, damn, you ask a question. There's a financial interest, and I think a realtor would have to disclose at that point if the decision they were making would impact their financial situation, in which case they'd have to recuse themselves. But I'm not sure, in my view, I don't think it meets the standard we just voted on in the resolution. Now, that's a private view. I don't know what the legal view would be or the community's view, but I think it's something that would have to be disclosed in the same way that someone might sit on the recreation committee who has an interest in activities at the fields, right? I don't think it prohibits them from being on the committees. It just prohibits them from voting on matters of
Anything that
personal
would-
interest.
Okay. I just
Okay.
wanted clarification.
But
on
it
that.
might be nice if those committees would request that members identify potential conflicts at the beginning of the meeting, which is what they do in recreation, for example.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
when we go to recreation, we got to have a more explicit
Right, because
conversation.
that is
Right.
one of the committees that recreation which
passing
will
on, I
not,
realize.
yes, we are not approving tonight. Okay. Vote.
Yes.
Jackson,
yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Yes.
Brian, Celia,
yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
I'm a yes as well, motion passes. So we are now down to an interesting conversation, which is number 20, which is a discussion of increasing the level of service of communities. 27, what did I say? 27, discussing the increasing level of service for community standards inspections in 2021 for the remainder of the year. Do we have a motion?
It's a discussion.
It
Just
is
a
a discussion. That's true. It is a discussion. So, and we had been provided with information from Neil, who talked about the additional cost that would be incurred if we went to additional inspectors.
Is
Which-
that the paper that Susanna, is that the paper that you
Yes.
laid out for us?
Yes, these are the numbers. We've talked about adding one additional full-time inspector, possibly adding two. But along with that, with more inspections, you need an admin to support that person to do the backup, all the paperwork of the letters, the follow-ups, the answering residents' questions. We also have an option of doing one inspector and one full-time admin, or two inspectors and one full-time admin, and we have the finances in front of us as to what that would cost, and that is the finances based on CCMC, what they would charge us back.
So this
For that.
includes the load.
This includes the load.
Susanna, what's the current complement? The number of
current
employees.
staffing.
Position, you
Yeah.
mean? Okay. So there's a community standards manager, there are two inspectors, one administrative assistant, and the ARC coordinator.
And we are doing how long did we just say it would take to do all the
22
inspections?
months to do them all once. So let me just make a general comment here to get us started. We have a RFP and statement of work process out there that is going to require 4 inspections a year of every home. And we're going to get proposals from everybody, including CCMC, who is one of the 6 finalists, about what it's going to take to do that. So, and Cindy and I have had all 6 budget meetings, and we've been asked questions like, you realize the staffing will have to change? And we've said, yes, we know we're going to have to do resets to get where we need to get on certain items. So if we stall this, why are we stalling this? I mean, we can make a conscious decision as a board to punt on this until August 15th, roughly, let's say. But then we're going to have a new company, or we're going to have the same company, and then we're still going to have to deal with the issue. I'm trying to put this in a business perspective as opposed to just dollars, because I think we're not doing enough inspections today, clearly.
I have a comment, but I want to hear if anybody else says anything first.
Well,
Before I shift it.
just even if we approve it today
Mhm.
and add the additional staffing, this is basically May 1st. A new inspector is not going to be up to speed until possibly interviewed, hired, and trained. We're looking at least 90 to 120 days before they even can
Hit the street.
street
Yeah.
and be productive.
Who will train the new inspector? Because the ones on are just, aren't they new?
It would be the manager would be
Okay.
training the people that we hired.
We'll take them on the tours. I think that approving this, and I'm not entirely clear that we can approve it in tonight's meeting.
It was
Since
just.
there was
it
not a specific,
It was specific to be a discussion.
Yeah.
Yes.
but I think that this puts weight behind what we say in the scope of work. It means that we're serious about making these changes and that we are moving towards a proactive approach. I think it's clear from the KPIs, and it's part of the reason I pointed out the KPIs earlier tonight, that we just simply don't have the manpower or woman power to do the work that we think we need to do. And post-COVID, post the year that we've had, I'm not sure we can continue to say that's a reason that we wouldn't do it and that we've let compliance drop. And so in my mind, this is money well spent. This improves housing values. It improves the aesthetic of the community. It is part of what makes us special. And in my view, we should go to the 2 full-time inspectors and 1 full-time administrator. And that's probably less than what we'll do in the scope of work, right, Brian? I mean, we had talked about, I mean, in order to do the 4 inspections a year, it's going to be way more than this. So I think this is an interim step at the very least that gets us there.
I agree with Jackson, but my concern with this is that the manager is going to have to be pulled away from what she's doing to train all these people. So who's going to be doing her job in the interim?
Well, to be fair, when you're training an inspector, yeah, it's a little bit of everybody, right? So you have the manager training, but you also have the inspectors. They're going to shadow them. They're going to go out in the field.
Who are also new.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. They're
Right.
like new.
But this
Well,
this
by
is a
that
process
point, they
that
would
we
have
asked
been-
CCMC to manage through
Yeah.
for us.
At that point, they would have been here 3 to 4 months, at least possibly 5. And so they've been around the neighborhood. They've got the routines going. They know how to they've done it enough. So, you have to assume that people, they learn. And, we have a lot of people, a lot of good team players here where you learn throughout our offices, all our, department heads, everyone comes together to teach each other things. So, when new people come, I give them tours, we explain things about the community. So they're going to get help from all aspects. But yes, it'll be the inspectors, it'll be the manager, it'll be the community standards assistant, it'll be ARC, it'll be myself. We'll all pitch in.
You have a question, a comment?
Questions, comments, concerns, all of the above.
Do you have a question?
I do. You're not gonna want me to answer it. So I wasn't planning on bringing this up, but it actually came up today. We had an RFP interview today. It's our second one, and it's shame on me for a couple of things for not acknowledging things sooner. But this is a CROA budget. These are CROA, let's call them employees, indirect, of course, but let's just call them CROA employees. First, do we have the budget to go ahead and make this happen right off the bat? Cindy,
guess it's
that's a
no.
question.
Well,
No, this would be a
I'll
budget.
answer. The correct answer is, do we have an approved budget? If we went all in, the amount of money is $148,000. And we probably would need to approve a budget resolution at a meeting.
And that is an annual budget. And we are not. adding
Our
this-
annual budget does not have these positions. We're adding, we have done budget things for amounts that were immaterial, but this is more than immaterial in my opinion. Do we have adequate cash? Absolutely. Do we have budget authority? We probably need to expand it. We'd have to ask Tom to be specific.
And
but I
this would
think so.
be.
Well, but then the other part of that is too, if we've been operating under staff for the first 3 months,
Right, there's probably money left.
there's money left.
Well,
I mean, maybe
a little bit.
You've seen the financials. We're at a loss. So, I mean, if we looked at the budget as a whole, I mean, we can talk about the 47,000 or
I mean, are
whatever
you
else.
talking
I
about
mean,
staffing
things
at a
push around.
loss?
So let me
Good question, though.
So let me back up with, if we chose the most expensive option, how many more inspections do you feel we would get? And I won't quote you specifically, but how many more do you believe we would get per month? Roughly.
So we had talked about exploring, everything that the inspectors do. We talked about, it's not just first inspections, it's second inspections, it's resales, it's ARC. So, to be the most efficient, everybody pitches in for that, and Jessica will look at it, we'll help her and we'll look at to see how to reorganize everything. So we're getting the maximum efficiency out of a team like that. But, considering everything they do, I think we talked about 10 new inspections a day, right, per inspector, 10 to 15 per inspector, along with everything else that we
That
have to
would be
do.
August through December.
So
Right.
let's say we'll
If we,
have
they're
three.
up, that's if they can hire them right away, which is, it could be doubtful. If they can hire, when they can hire them, you're probably gonna get 4 months. And if you consider 20 work days a month,
So my concern is that the number that has come up, this is discussion, that has been coming up is roughly 2,600 units that we need for inspection. We do not, and those who came on the board the first year with me may recall that I had a concern with the service area and the budget for the service area actually being covered, the expense of their service area manager being covered by the rest of CROA through the operating expenses. It was not properly allocated. Now, we are in a position of the identical situation where we have 2,600 units needing inspection, because that is roughly, from what I understand, single-family homes. However, the pot that all of that money goes into is paid for by every CROA member, owner, whatever you want to call it today, right? Go back to our own documents, which we approved our condo council, and 1,849 units are condo owners who are paying for a service and they are not receiving that service. That is 42.8% of this community is paying for the single family homes to be inspected. While they may have their own association for inspections, that is true. They pay for that service as well. They are not receiving a discount. They are not receiving any benefit of being a member of CROA. And so as we have this conversation for inspections, I want to be clear that we need to recognize every condo as well, because we are representing CROA as a whole. So I am having a lot of concerns on this. This was not something I decided that I wanted to bring up tonight. I did not intend to, but it's definitely been something that's brewing quite a bit with me. And I believe the discussion is here and we need to have it.
Yeah, I know this is going to shock the people in the audience. I actually agree with Kevin.
I 100% agree with Kevin.
We have a variety of expenses that cross condo, single family homeowner lines. If the value of the entire community goes up, it's good for everybody. By the same token, we have maintenance costs that are borne solely by the service area. And we have some possibilities of bearing that burden in the larger community in certain circumstances that we've discussed in executive session. But I think that if the primary focus of these inspectors is single family homes, perhaps we should look at some way to allocate that expense differently. I don't know how that would be done from a financial standpoint or a billing standpoint. I also am not sure what the precedent is when we start saying this service is only for single family homes and this service is only for condos or service areas. We have service area budgets. So they are certainly part of the covenants and the inspection process. I think condos represent a different problem to us than a townhouse.
Cindy's heard me say this a few times in the 6 sessions. And when I talk about the 6 sessions, I've said it to CCMC too. It's almost like the RFP is causing us to come to a new reflection point. And so let me just be clear, because I want everybody in the audience to hear this and they can review it. It's easy to go year for year and say, well, we can increase the rates by 0.5%. We can increase it by 1%, 2% if you're going to be egregious. And there's inflation in the world and there's all this other type of stuff. And we put ourselves behind an 8 ball. One of the things I intended to go to at the end, because I was going to have a few things in the board comments, but I'll just make this one comment right now, is I have made the comment to all 6 of them that I think we have to have a reset, because I don't think CCMC today is set up fairly to be able to have success. I just don't believe that. I think we've got too lean in too many places. We're trying to put thumbs in holes and dikes all over the place, and that is not fair to anybody. So we're going to end up with 6 proposals on June 1st. We as board members, I am certain, are going to read those 3 or 4 times in June, have our conversations in July, and make a decision in August. And we're going to have those proposals need to form the basis for our going forward budget.
Yes.
I could understand us saying, do nothing with inspectors today, because we're really going to have to sell to the community and the residents a brand new budget reflecting the reality of the RFP process and what we have learned from 6 parties about what you probably need to manage this. And I'm personally very much of the opinion that 985 is going up more than 1% or 2%. I just think we've been fooling ourselves. You've heard me rail about finance. We've talked about inspectors. Your question here about allocation is a fair question. I think that's a legal question. It's not an unfair question, but then we need to do homework between now and then. I could see us getting to the point where we're making a decision in August, and whoever the party is, CCMC or one of the other fives, is going to say, we need to do a budget, folks. And we have all this good data to go there. So if you want to ask those questions, not a bad question, then let's tell somebody to do the homework in the interim. And as we come out of the RFP process, then we're going to have to say, what does it take to meet the statement and standard of work that we set out?
Yeah. go
My
ahead.
question, Susanna, for you, or maybe for Neil, is with this number of inspectors, are you, let's go Cadillac, are you looking to be able to review the condos as well and inspect those condos?
So Jessica, the community standards manager, reviews, inspects condos every month, once a month.
Does she fall under CJC or through
Yes,
CROA?
it's under CJC.
So that goes back to the budget question, which is a very different financially. It's not connecting, if you will, because condo owners are not members of CJC, they are members of CROA.
Mhm.
And therefore they need to be inspected by CROA
Oh.
or be direct members of CJC, pay CJC, get a voice with CJC. Direct, not indirect. Because it's, the line financially is not matching the line for representation.
Well, maybe we should discuss going to CROA and saying that their properties have increased to the extent that they might be able to have their own inspector.
And
And that
something,
becomes part of their budget.
That
to
would-
your
yeah.
point, and
If they have their own inspector, it would be, yeah.
Well, but I mean, you could take a half a person, or
Yeah.
whatever, and, hire a part-time person, but that would be their entire responsibility to do the CROA inspections.
and a recommendation on that, just from the peanut gallery right here. For Canoa, they do everything by size, meaning by acreage, not by
Assessments, right?
units. Town center, just from my background, does a lot of things by square foot. And I believe that Canoa would benefit from figuring out their needs based on the square foot that they have within their units and not by per parcel, because you cannot consider one address on the boulevard equal to a single family home.
So is there an action item to
This is
just
consult
discussion, yeah.
legal about
I think-
condos or?
Well, I think
I
we need
think-
to talk about whether it's legal to do an allocation of fees based upon the type of home.
I'd like a
type
better
of resident.
understanding financially first.
Maybe that could be
Before
something
I
that
let,
they could-
before I let you, and then I'm going to David, just to make a comment. If we take the Cadillac, as you called it, we're looking at if we get 4 good months out of them, which would be September, October, November, December, by the end of the year, that means 1,600 additional inspections. That's what we would get. So and we have 2,600 homes. So if we figure basically 1,600 additional inspections that we would do, ends up being, that's what we would get if we added the Cadillac with 2 additional inspectors before the end of the year.
So the intent of this is great. And it's to increase the inspections and to live up to what we want. I think the timing is off. So I would propose that we do nothing with this at this point. We're learning a lot, to Brian's point, we're learning a lot from the RFP process. And to me, as we move forward and make decisions and we move forward with covenants and inspections, we're going to learn, we are already learning new efficiencies. And so I just would, but I also think that as we get into the budget time, we go to your question, which was what's appropriate. We get legal advice on that, but what's appropriate is what's the appropriate resolution in terms of fairness for condos versus single family dwellings in terms of fees, just as we have raised in the past and recalibrated what's appropriate for the rentals. So we've raised that because they pay an apartment fee. And so we recalibrated that 4 years ago. So, but I think those are budget questions as we get into that whole time. So I would propose that we not do an action at this point.
And the finance committee has a meeting next week where we're going to start talking. The finance committee, we really need that thing up there. The finance committee has a
I can
meeting
barely hear them
next
say
week where we're going to start talking about what we do in June. until you see the proposals, it's really hard to figure out what to do. You're just guessing. So really, it's going to be a scramble in June. But I'm thinking, listening to this, that what would be valuable is almost to lay out our 2021 budget and then the 6 responses and how do they compare to each other is one question. How does it compare to our budget is another question, because we as a board are going to have to set around. I hadn't thought about Kevin's point, but I actually like Kevin's point a lot, because we're going to have to sit around in July and say, here is the impact to residents, whether they're in homes, condos, apartments, whatever, of this change. And what we're starting to believe is the reality of our situation. Anyway, whichever the 6, I would like somebody, and I'm happy actually, Kevin, for you to take the lead on this, with working with Tom Slayton, maybe, is just, okay, ask the specific questions around what is the flexibility that we have with homes,
Reallocating.
apartments, condos and stuff like that. If we're going to talk about it, because then there is a financial question about, okay, it's always difficult to say what is the real benefit you get. Everybody gets the ability to use Heritage Hall as an example, or to come here and stuff like that. So where is the expanse for a home strictly that they should be paying for people who are inspections? So how do we divide that? Because we could have 2 rates. We could say the 985 today could be these are made up numbers. It could be 1,050 and 940 going to imbalance because of the inspector. So maybe we take pieces of our budget and say who gets the benefit. I don't think that's an unfair place to go down. But then I want to do it now as part of the RFP.
But we have to find out, first of all, if it's legal.
If it's
we
legal.
Talked about, and I mean, you have, and I understand that the inspections go on mostly in townhomes and single, but the condo owners also are benefiting from that because the
Correct.
town is being maintained
I would disagree.
to
I
the
would
level
disagree.
that
I would
impacts their
disagree.
homeowner value.
Sorry, I would
I
disagree.
want to just,
Also,
as
that's
liaison,
okay.
one of the
Disagree.
liaisons to CDD, I just want to let you know that CDD last night in their meeting, late into the night, talked about the fact that they didn't think there were enough CROA inspections going on of their easement properties. And they are interested in having CROA take on more responsibility and do more inspections. So I think, to Kevin's point, that's moving us in that direction. I think we can have a very valuable and spirited discussion about where these fees should go. I'm only concerned, we can't do anything tonight for sure.
No.
But I'm only concerned that doing nothing ultimately, right, is going to leave us deeper in the hole, whatever we decide to do. So I would simply ask the action item being talking to Tom Slayton about this particular question of fees and allocation, but that it come back up on our agenda to talk about again in the context of our budget and what kind of budget resolution we would need, so that we can have a continuing discussion and the community would know we're talking about it.
But I really encourage everyone to think about the fact that we ought to be having all of our conversations about the reality of the budget for 2022, because there's a lot of uncertainty and it affects everybody, and it's just impossible to
And
plan.
the reason this ended up as a discussion point was because we don't want to go further in the hole and further behind on inspections, which we are catching up from last year and staffing issues. And if we do nothing, we have basically accepted that we are not going to get any further ahead than we are with 2 inspectors until the budget process and until the RFP is decided, until that new, until the new structure hits. So that would be that's the decision.
But it's really a deferral of only 3 or 4
It-
months,
and
May,
in
June,
reality, it
July,
is.
and August, and a
It's-
decision,
right.
implement fast.
Yeah, it's just a recognition that right now we're behind and falling further behind. That's
And
what
we
the
are-
KPIs tell
that's-
me at least.
Right.
And so I think we should just be
So if you
honest
go,
about that.
just historically, Susanna, if you go back 2 years, a year and a half ago, how many full-time inspectors did we have and how many do we have today?
When I was community standards manager, we had 1.5,
So we had 1.5. What do we have today?
2.
Okay, so we have more than,
Jen.
Did we have a really good inspector?
We had a fabulous inspector.
No.
She was equivalent to 5.
She was.
Yeah.
She-
yeah,
Okay.
okay, so
I
we're.
mean, I'm just
we're-
being fair.
Okay, I will call for any final comments on this before we move to the next item on the agenda.
One final thing on that is we do have a CJC meeting in May. I would request, I believe David and Cindy, is that right?
Yes.
Who's,
Yes,
it may be worth bringing that up on the CJC agenda item
About the
Um,
canoa prop, which,
between canoa items, between condo items and inspections, because I've also heard that canoa takes care of the inspections of.
Yeah, we have a condo
condos,
council
so-
meeting coming in May. I'd like to put on the agenda, Susanna, Kevin's question about the value perceived in the condos for these inspections. I'd like to hear from the condo managers and owners. I think it would be a great opportunity to get their feedback.
Oh, at the condo council.
And
yes.
to be clear, when I was saying that Canoa should have their own inspector, I meant that Canoa would pay for it too. That
Oh,
it would
yeah.
not
Oh, no,
run,
I-
that it
oh, I
would
got
not
that.
run through
No.
joint committee.
Yeah.
So maybe this is something that, we
Well,
could talk about to Paige about with the Canoa.
you're talking, and we could talk about a business model evolution where Canoa has certain employees, because today they have no employees. You could have certain people who are employees of Canoa, just like we have certain people, a CROA, because CJC, the 75-25 is just on shared employees up there. So
Right.
we could go down that path.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
You don't have to ask. You can make a comment.
So you're saying, Kevin, that Canoa does the inspections for the condos, like the
I
terraces?
have never received an official entity that does inspections for condo associations. And
You have never
based-
received? What did you?
confirmation of
Of
the
who does the
entity that does inspections of the condos.
I know
We had
they
inspections,
do.
for example, at Artisan. Remember, we went through all of the negotiation and litigation. That was on the basis of covenant violations, the same
So
at
that's an
Sienna and
example. So that's
Georgetown.
CROA.
Well, but Susanna.
Sienna was CROA.
CROA does all, CROA,
Okay.
are your inspectors do all the condos, do they not?
Yes.
No.
Community, the community standards manager inspects the condos.
So are you saying
the
it should be
condos.
Canoa that does the condos? I'm just not following.
I'm not either, and I'm looking.
Are
for
you asking that
clarification.
question?
Yeah.
I'm looking for
Because that's not-
clarification.
Well,
Okay.
What
she just said that the-
inspections
that
does
Jessica
CROA,
does.
what inspections do the inspectors do at the condos?
They
look
do
at the
exterior.
Condos properties.
Yeah.
Exterior,
Yeah.
The
they look at
exterior.
outside the balconies, they look at the common areas.
Do they go
Landscaping.
on the
Painting.
property of the
Yes.
the
Yes.
condos?
We walk on the property. We don't go into people's balconies, but yes.
They see that they review what's visible.
The plants,
Right.
the landscaping.
Like-
Landscaping, the outs, the
The
exterior of the
sidewalk, is the sidewalk
building.
getting cleaned or there.
Right,
is
but you
there-
don't examine if somebody has a Ring doorbell because that cannot be seen from the roads,
Those get looked at when we have resale inspections.
resale. Mhm, okay.
Yes.
Who's that?
And
Okay, that's
Jessica, she
Neil.
probably can tell
Oh,
you
is
a
that
lot
Je- oh,
more
it's
'cause she's
Jessica.
out there doing it.
Oh,
So
Jessica.
Yeah,
if you want to
she's-
ask her some specifics.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna say that we're gonna move forward.
let's move
and
forward.
We're done on that conversation. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a motion to approve a 9-month contract.
I'd like to put a consent agenda, if I could.
I go right ahead.
I'd like to combine items 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32 together in a consent agenda. And yeah, those.
Yeah,
just
those
that
are,
group.
yeah, the next one, it has to be separate. I would, okay. Do I have a second on that motion to combine 28 to 32? Okay,
28 to 32.
okay, so we are
We just made
approving,
Brian in charge of all of those.
okay.
Thank you,
Yeah, thank
Brian.
you. He was out of the room, so he got a big thing. So we are
Can I
gonna,
ask a question?
the motion is
I
to,
don't want to.
we are approving 28 to 32 in a
Hold on.
consent agenda.
I'm not going to be comfortable with that. I'm sorry.
Which one do you want to pull out?
29.
Okay, so let's pull out 29. Let's go 28, 30, 31, and 32. Is that okay?
Put
Perfect.
29
I second
separate.
that.
All right, on that one, David,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yep.
Brian,
Sure.
Celia.
Yes,
Yes.
Kevin, and I'm a yes as well. Okay, number 29, motion to renew the 1-year contract with Larson Prime in the amount of $489 a month or $5,968 a year, which is a CROA operating expenditure.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I will say this for the 4th time now, for the 4th year in a row. Larson and Associates, or now, in fact, Slayton Larson and Associates, now that Tom Slayton is now a partner.
so this wording has
This
to
is
be
for- this-
changed?
No,
No, they
Larson
call it
Prime is
Larson
the-
Prime
Larson
is
Prime,
there.
this is correct. Yeah.
They're set up. Now, I've brought it up many, many times, and I will bring it up again, and I feel as though same thing with RFP, it's coming to light again and more so, that there is a concern, dare I bring up that term, conflict of interest, with Tom Slayton and his firm representing CROA, CNOA, CJC, didn't even know if we had a contract with them for CCS until we brought it up. Remain concerns with him as a representative of essentially the developer of Celebration. And I think especially in the recent discussions around Island Village and the supplements for Mattamy, I do not feel as though he is an attorney representing the best of our interests as a CROA board and our community.
Jackson, your comments.
I respect your opinion and I disagree. I think Tom is a highly competent, highly ethical attorney. I think his firm has behaved ethically. I'm not aware of any specific conflict that they have not opted out or made us aware of. And I believe we should continue to work with them. I think he's got great institutional history and knowledge of our community. And I hope we'll continue to keep that relationship.
Comment I would make is I also agree with Jackson. I believe he represents us well and does bring forth his comments. And when there is a difference of opinion, he definitely gives us direction on how to best resolve issues. And as part of this RFP process, I think he is a leader in representing homeowners associations and is also representing some of the people that we are interviewing in the RFP process because he is so well thought of in the homeowner association world. So,
And I agree that, and I think he serves us well. And I think particularly in this community, the idiosyncrasies of the alphabet soup.
you know,
So I think he does represent us well. And this is a CROA operating expense. So this is representing CROA.
yes. Okay, any further comments?
Call the question.
Call the vote. David?
Brian.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brian.
No, I got kind of. I think the question is actually a very fair question.
Mhm.
It was an extremely fair question. I think the question is a very fair question. It was extremely obvious to two people on this board at a meeting that we joined last week when Mr. Slayton was there, that he had been called by somebody above our pay grade. I don't.
We get paid?
Yeah, direct deposit.
Good comment.
Dr. Susanna, maybe you got missed. I think he's good. I don't argue that at all. I think he cares. I think when you talk about certain relationships, we're not the first in the pecking order. And I think it would be a mistake for any of us to think that. I mean, I'll just say that. I probably wouldn't change right now, but Kevin will ask it a fifth year in a row. And it's something that deserves more serious consideration as I'm watching more and more things.
Yeah.
But
And-
does
and
his
to be-
loyalty
that's
stay with CROA when he's representing all these
Depends on who he's
entities?
representing at the time.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's up to us as a board
Mhm.
to hold him accountable. I know that
Right.
Kevin holds his feet to the fire on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think that each of us have a fiduciary responsibility to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we think that our counsel is not advising us in our best interest, we have the obligation to point it out, as has been done at various times by various board members. Nonetheless, there in the alphabet soup, there is a lot of craziness and there's a lot of behind the scenes information that goes on. And I think we have to continue to be diligent and aggressive in pointing that out wherever it shows, whether it's our lawyers or our engineers or our managers or anyone or our architects, whatever it might be. So I don't think the claim is mistaken. I just think that at this point, the burden falls back to us. And I would reiterate that I think this is the right firm at this time. So I call the question.
I'm going to call the vote. David?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Celia?
yes.
Kevin?
Nay.
And I am a yes as well. Motion passes 6-1. Okay, we are now on item 33, which is a motion to approve 6 roof repairs by Performance Roofing in the amount of $5,250, including $750 from North Village Townhome Service Area Replacement Reserve expenditure, $750 from South Village Townhouse Service Area Replacement Reserve expenditure, and $3750 from Savannah Square Townhouse Service Area Replacement Reserve expenditure. And this one will be a standalone item.
I move it for discussion.
Okay, so move, you have, and David seconded, it's like he's been, you two have been first and seconding,
That's fine.
open for discussion.
So if I could start, if you look at the action item itself, you'll see that we've got these roofing repairs still have to do with the active leaks. And this came up in our conversations earlier about the amount of activity. I think it's worth pointing out to the board that what we thought might be happening is not necessarily so, that we are continuing to see leaks. I think the thing that I'm concerned about is that we are getting, and Susanna, and I guess I'd ask you or Jessica, are these repairs now de minimis repairs or are they Cadillac repairs?
What?
Are
Okay,
they-
we're on number 33.
We're on the roofing repair, performance
Okay, I
roofing.
thought we were on site village for some reason. You're asking, well,
I'm
Tim
I'm
Prescott.
asking,
can-
are these Cadillac repairs, as we've discussed in executive session, or are they just the basic?
Are they big items or small items?
Right. Tim, can you speak to
Oh,
that,
Tim,
please?
Okay.
Yes, these are just temporary repairs.
Could you,
But
So-
like
Yeah,
how
say more
much,
about
how much
temporary.
work is being done?
Oh, well, it depends on what type of leak it is. I've had them go all the way down to replacing sheathing, or it's just where there's flashing, it's just taking up the shingles along the flashing, cleaning the flashing and put a new bowl down and then putting the new shingles back down.
And yet, Tim, it's the same amount, $750 every time.
Yep.
How is that?
I walked into
minimum.
it being 750, but that's a pretty lower number than other roofing companies around that I've come in contact with that, for your standard roof repair, that is a little bit cheaper than other companies.
This is our this is a negotiated rate per repair.
it's the minimum. If an
It's like a
owner
minimum.
calls up and says, I have a leak, it costs $750 for them to come in. I asked about a year ago for us to go ahead and re-review with performance at that time and say, hey, we will guarantee you an X figure per month even to lower our amount, because this, as you can see, there's one unit that's $3,000 through several visits.
Yeah.
That's not okay, especially when one of them is within 10 days of the first visit.
Tim, the one they're talking about has the higher amount on the action item. I remember you were saying that was because the owner had been out of town.
How would that impact it?
Well,
Wasn't
no,
it-
are you talking about the one for at Savannah for that one address? There was three
Yes,
different ones.
yes.
Those were-
One address is 3 times.
Yes.
Those were 3 different leaks. And
One's at the garage.
yeah, the last one at the garage, we didn't know about, even the owner didn't know about right away. It was the other 2 in the house that we knew about, and then he found out about the one in the garage at a later date.
Okay.
So one of the things that's hard for me to understand, I'm looking at the invoices from performance and everything is billed to Celebration Town Hall. It's not always clear from the invoices to me, Tim, which property is being invoiced. How do you tell?
On the ship too.
The invoice number, upper right.
So it's Town Hall and then the street address that we're talking about. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, you'll see the ship to, and then even on the bill to, that was the wrong invoice, sorry. Yes, but on the ship to is where you'll see it.
And that looks consistent across the invoices.
And so when we've got multiple repairs to the same address, what's going on?
Different.
Well,
Different-
as I
different places? Is that what you're saying?
stated,
Like
those
one
were
was the
3
garage.
different leaks.
Yeah, they're different leaks. So
Three different
one was
leaks.
on a garage apartment
And
above the
let's- I mean,
garage.
So
Let's
it's
be
really
real. They
4.
probably have somebody out there and say, if you have
One
any
was
other issues, just give
patio.
us a call.
Yeah, this one was
And boom, that
patio.
homeowner's now aware of the process. It doesn't cost them anything.
Yeah.
They
I
come
mean,
right back out.
Yeah, so they're definitely, they're categorized as different roofs.
And in our meeting, I was to work with Susanna, and Susanna sent me a document today that breaks it out by building and residence.
Okay.
I will get that to you in the next
Okay,
couple of
so we're
days.
still working. on it. Okay.
Are we clearing these expenses through Angus and Terry before we do them? Or are we just doing them and then informing them afterwards?
Nope, as soon as I get notified, I send an email to Angus and Terry, so they're aware right away.
And do they have adequate insurance?
Performance roofing, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And that has been verified and we're watching it.
Okay, then I'm good.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second I will call the vote. David,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Celia,
Yes.
Kevin,
Has to get done, yes.
and I'm a yes as well.
It's the
That one
process.
passes. Okay. The next one, motion to approve Vice Painting as the contractor to paint South Village Townhomes in the amount of $158,500. South Village Townhome Service Area Replacement Reserve Expenditure. So it is budgeted for in their replacement reserve expenditure. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion. Any questions regarding this one?
Yes, this roof was complete and is in good condition or will need work in the near future.
The South Village Townhomes roof?
The buildings that will be painted. And I understand it's scheduled by the reserve study to be completed in 2021. However, is it wise for us to push that back even slightly until the rest of the projects at that area need to be completed?
We need to ask Tim that.
You're talking about the paint in relation to the roof?
Yeah, you're saying, will the roof repairs impact the nice new painting job that we're paying to have
And I
done?
mean, it shouldn't. I know it's a silly
Shouldn't.
thing, but I just don't know where their accounts are.
Ask the
Perhaps it might
question.
be something that gets pushed back to help them assist with other expenses that might be around.
Yeah, we talked about that, and the thought was that, well, Tim can talk about the condition of Southfield a little bit more, but that when you postpone maintenance, you create more problems for the buildings themselves and the homeowners that live there, so it's not advisable to put off maintenance like that.
No, of course. And I understand. I want to make sure that,
The-
you know, the unit is waterproofed, especially that's even in this action item. But that starts from the roof. So I want to,
So this was also,
Sure.
they have a service area committee who
Right.
voted to
They're good
move
with this?
forward with this.
perfect.
Good point.
Yeah, I gave the South Village Committee two options for paint. One is just, it's run of the mill, still a good product, but the second option that they picked was the waterproofing project, waterproofing system. There is a lot of hairline cracks in the building just from due to age and moving and, you know, the ground moving and all that. So I really want to get those addressed. And that waterproofing will really secure that building.
Good.
All right, call the vote. David,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Celia,
Yes.
and Kevin.
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. Motion passes. Motion to approve landscape replacement at Roseville Corner by New Leaf Landscaping in the amount of $3,337. Roseville Corner Service Area Replacement Reserve Expenditure.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'm gonna call
Sounds
this
good.
one, I'm gonna call this one all in favor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Motion.
Can-
I
can we
move to
combine the
table-
next
I was gonna say, who's gonna
I
speak
move
up
to
over there?
table 36, 37, 38, and 39.
May I ask the reason?
Susanna,
Are those all yours?
am I
These are
correct?
the
No, I-
umbrellas.
Umbrellas?
We had previously removed 4 other
Oh,
items,
so
but we
we're not-
kept those 4.
Yeah.
These are not the ones. So we,
No, these are not the ones.
so I can't. I withdraw
Consent,
that
you meant,
motion.
you meant to say consent agenda, didn't you?
Consent agenda for
Consent-
36
That's
through
what I thought you-
39.
I thought-
Thank you.
Sorry, I love umbrellas. I can't get enough umbrellas. Okay,
Thank you.
fine.
I
Second, second for the
Sec-
consent
Consent
agenda.
agenda. These are to basically replace the umbrellas for Lakeside Pool, Spring Park Pool, East Village Pool, and North Village Pool. We have a
Well, and I
motion
have
and
a
a
second.
second.
I mean, sorry, I guess it's contagious, the talkative. Didn't we just buy umbrellas 2 years ago? And I know some were
I-
destroyed, some were, I actually have photos
Right.
of, God, I gotta say it, employees removing broken umbrellas, though, umbrellas, right after purchasing them from.
I
and taking
remember
them home.
umbrellas being replaced.
So,
I think, I believe, if we can have a comment
I
on
need
this, I
more on
believe
this.
that these are, the other umbrellas that were purchased were not of a industrial homeowners association quality, and that these have been selected for their durability and more of a industrial, commercial use instead of,
they actually. look
Mike Henry,
identical.
can you
Yes.
talk more about that, please?
Hello, can everybody hear me?
thank you,
Sure.
Mike, yes.
Yep, okay. Yeah, and these umbrellas, I mean, the ones that we've had a lot of issues with the ribs. that hold out the canopy breaking, and there's not a lot of stainless steel or aluminum in the current umbrella, so we get a lot of rust failure on some of the bolts. The California umbrella is they have fiberglass, stainless steel, and aluminum. So they hold up to the elements very well, and they are a commercial grade, so they do handle the constant up and down much better than a residential grade umbrella.
And it's not on Mike. I mean, nobody really here was there for this, but they were industrial. They were purchased from an industrial company, a company, Florida Patio. I know the guy, he sells to all the hotels in the area. There's a warranty that was on the products. I know the money is there, but just because there's money in my bank account doesn't mean I want to burn it. And I'm not feeling comfortable with it.
So are you saying that we did not implement or we did not access the warranty on the previous umbrellas?
I'm just not understanding, because let's be real, for the last year, these umbrellas did not get touched. In fact, they should have been stored properly and so on. And I'm just intrigued how they were stored first. I want to know about a little bit about over the past year, where were they and so on.
Are we talking about the blue umbrellas down at Lakeside?
Umbrellas.
They're
at
all the
pools.
umbrellas at the pool.
Orange over spring, a lot of them are orange now, yellow at East Lawn, whatever the case is, but 2 years, umbrellas lasted us 2 years.
I don't remember the last time we replaced them, but I might not have been on the board.
thinking it
I was
was
on the board.
it
Yeah,
was
I was on the
18,
board. We were
19.
on
I
the board.
guess, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like 3 years ago.
20 didn't count. I mean, I don't know. I
Okay, well, we
have
can
more
do some
questions.
research into the warranty and move this to a later meeting. if
Like
you
I
want
said, I
to.
moved a table.
Maybe we need to go back there. Okay. I would,
Where were the umbrellas stored over the past year?
The umbrellas that were taken down for the COVID were usually stored on site at the pool locations with the pool furniture.
Outside, closed.
were they outside or inside?
The majority of them were outside.
Okay. So they still were being used then, technically. Okay.
So each
All
umbrella
right.
is
Would you like to
$480.
remove your motion?
I'm going to withdraw my motion.
I'll second that.
And I'm going to move to table those
I'll
items.
second that.
I'm going to call for the vote. David?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes,
Brian?
Yes.
Celia?
yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. We'll table those and we will revisit umbrella replacement at a later time.
Diana,
Yes.
during the course of the meeting, we discovered an error for technology committee applicants. Brian, you had said, do these match your grid? And it looks like it did not. So there was an extra applicant for technology committee that Patrick brought to my attention. It was a gentleman that applied towards the end of the cutoff. And so there are 6 applicants and 5 seats for technology.
Are there
Unless,
duplicates?
unless I don't believe the technology committee is specified in the charter, you can raise the amount of members in the committee. So,
So we
of
have
course, that's
6
up to the
applicants for
board.
5 positions.
Yes.
It's not the one that you had me cross off, is it?
I
No, I
believe
don't
it
think so.
is because it was crossed off on my
Technology's
list.
not in the charter.
It is not.
No, but the resolution for technology
we
committee
said-
says,
It's 5,
But I
but
thought we said 3 to 7 in the
Mm,
resolution
seven.
we passed tonight.
Yes.
But the technology committee calls for 5 max,
Well,
the
then let's-
resolution for that. committee.
Yeah, the resolution
Well,
says
I
up
think
to
that's,
5.
well, okay, we originally did that because we were launching it, just trying to get it
Yes.
launched.
So we would have to revote and change the resolution to say.
To allow for 5,
to
or
allow
allow
for
for 7.
7, for an odd number.
I'll make that
for
motion to
quorum.
change the technology resolution, which was action item earlier, number 7,
Yes.
just to modify,
I second it. I
just
think
to
it's fine.
modify that
No, I think it's
So
resolution.
who is making the motion?
I'm making the motion to
And I'll
modify the resolution, which was previously adopted tonight, item number 7 on the agenda, so that it reads on item C, first bullet, at least 3, but no more than 7 CROA members in good standing, ...
Okay, we have.
very
do we have
good.
a s-
Thank
I
you.
seconded it.
we have a
Thank you for
second?
bringing that up.
All right. Is there any discussion? I'm going to say all in favor to make this adjustment.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you very
Which
much.
then means that the 6 that we happened to approve earlier
We'll fill.
are
those.
still,
Yes, are
approved.
still valid. Those are still approved. Okay. Thank you for bringing that to our
thank you.
attention,
That's,
as we would better be able to fill that committee. Okay. Item number 40 on the agenda is privileged only information. Motion to initiate the finding process on, what's the new number?
16.
Just,
16.
yeah, it's 16.
Thank you. 16 non-compliance items through the notification of the covenants committee meeting to approve or reject the fine.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any
I
discussion?
do have a comment. I
Yes.
think one of the things to note for the board is that a lot of the items that are here still have to do with RVs and trailers and
Recreational vehicle.
recreational vehicles. And this, at least my sense is that this is a continuing and growing issue. We've got, maybe it's because of COVID, more people have brought RVs into the community. They're leaving them there. We've got vehicles that are remaining a long time.
This is not right. Oh, because I'm like, I don't see a single RV or trailer or anything on this.
No,
one. So what
uh,
is going
I
on?
emailed
Okay.
the updated form, but the one I printed
That was the
for a
earlier-
couple of you
you're
is
on the earlier
not the
list.
same one.
Okay.
The
So,
current one
let
is,
me-
yeah.
I just want to be clear. I mean, we've gotten rid of most of the holiday decoration problems. You know,
There's a
'cause it's
couple
only-
still on here.
It's only, April. But this RV and vehicle problem is, I think, clearly something that is out there. And I just want to call attention to that fact that this continues to be a problem.
Yes,
would think
there
that-
was very prominent during COVID when people were kind of looking for a place to stay
Yeah.
Yeah.
during those times.
I would think that maybe we could include it in a Friday flash, that we can include it in an article someplace, or communication. We need to mute someone. Who is that?
Good article for the June
June- for the
celebration
June,
news.
Yeah, just as a nice reminder as to what can and cannot be parked outside. Okay, so
Nothing
we
I'm
have
writing.
a motion and we have a second. I will call the vote to approve these 16 non-compliance items. David?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Celia?
Yes.
And Kevin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Motion passes.
Can I ask a question, which is a different question?
Oh.
I'm going down here and I see landscape, cleaning roof, mulch roof. It can take a long time. I mean, I've done the drive-through with Mary Jane when she was around, and everything. It'd take a long time to do a thorough inspection, but should we consider quicker drive-through inspections, looking for some of the easy aesthetic
Yeah.
wins, being mulch, some landscaping and stuff like that, so that we could do many more homes, understanding that, yes, we'd have to do a second one and a third one as when we get into our it's a quarter thing. But are there a lot of little victories? And you don't have to answer this tonight. I'm asking a question. Are there a lot of little victories we could do if we had a much simplified inspection?
Yeah.
Do a
Get
mini-
certain
like
things
a
over
Good
mini
idea.
inspect-
Good
mini
idea.
Just put mulch in,
inspection
so
and
go
then
ahead,
we'll
go for it.
What?
I just did my mulch yesterday. So go ahead, go for it. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's-
Well,
Yes, Kevin's
I'm not
absolutely on
gonna,
this
you're right,
list.
I'm not gonna answer that, but what I would say is that you run into, if you're gonna do that, you have to create a whole new inspection system that the
Letting
board
them
wants to
know.
do, because otherwise you end up with selective enforcement, because you come across, you're just doing roofs, you're just doing mulch, okay, that's all we're doing then. And then someone comes along and says, well, what about that guy's thing he put on his fence or something like that?
Well, if it's a
And you
dumb
end
idea,
up-
you can tell me it's a dumb idea. I'll live with
Well,
it. But
well,
I'm trying to
I like
figure
the
out a
spirit,
way
but
to get some easy
I think
wins
it's trying to
as we move towards one a
challenging
quarter. Because
idea.
doing,
Look at-
there's two devils here. If you only are doing 118 a month, you're going to get the same answer. You're not doing crap down there at all, where at least you're beautifying under one scenario a little. And
Jessica, were you gonna say
But your
something?
point is, look at the more egregious things.
The problem is once you write a letter to them, and
They-
even
they
though
could-
other things existed, they turn around and they use it on you in the future.
You would
and
have
say,
to make a clear
checked my
statement.
Change the letter.
Well, and then let me remind the board that during COVID, when y'all opened it up, first of all, we're just doing the basics, just doing cleaning, just doing lawn, just doing, these 5 main areas. And then the board decided come September, okay, now we're opening it up to everything. So that was a stage that we were in at some point.
I just asked a question.
Yeah,
If
I
it's a
think-
dumb
I-
question, I can live with it.
I think
But-
Jessica's trying to
Jessica,
chime in.
Yeah, I'm gonna call in Jessica so we
Get
can
in
say.
there. Hey, so I don't think we're in the position right now where we can do that. I think in the future, very much possibly, but right now we're picking up from a year where, a whole lot of inspections didn't happen. So we're finding that houses are in, rough shape at times. I just don't see us moving to that stage at this point in time.
Thank you.
And along
Commissioner
that,
Johnson.
Jessica wanted to make a comment about item number 41, correct?
Yes. Correct.
Go ahead.
That was the.
41.
I-
Action item 41?
the one that we're about ready
Oh,
to
40,
consent.
41.
I was moving us
Is
along.
that fines and charges? to
This
be
would be,
converted
no,
to
this would
specific?
be the motion to approve the conversion of 4 fines to specific assessments.
I think we need a motion to approve.
We do need
it.
a motion and then we can go to discussion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
So
Conversation.
is this regarding the property at 1451 Stickley?
Oh,
No, we don't-
wait.
we're not, excuse me, but we are not taking comments from
resident
the
comments.
residents at this point. I apologize for that. If you need to speak with someone, you can contact the office tomorrow morning, but we are not taking comments.
Mr. Kingston's actually already in communication with myself, and so Mr. Kingston, if you would let me handle this part, I'd appreciate that.
Very good.
I do have a-
Jessica,
I
what
do-
is your discussion?
Oh,
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry. Then we'll go to
there
Jackson.
is item number 4 on this agenda, or sorry, on this list at this point in time. The resident is on the line and would wants to ensue the appeal process and has emailed me to get that process going.
Okay, and I know that you are on top of that and you will handle helping the resident with the appeal process, but we need to continue with this item on the agenda. Jackson, you have a comment?
There was a 5th item on here that has now been removed, having to do with a recreational vehicle. That's a loose definition. Can you update us on what happened, why this is no longer on the list?
Yes, that person has submitted an appeal.
So why, the fact that it's been submitted to appeal, why does it not get converted to a specific assessment?
Once they submit, so the letter that we send, the specific assessment letter says that if you have completed the items or if you are opposed to this decision, you can submit an appeal. And at that point in time, we would hold off on applying the specific assessment until that appeal is reviewed by the board.
So we're going to see this at the appeal board hearing?
So then why would number 4 stay on?
Yeah, I
there?
don't really
He has not-
understand.
he
I'm a
has
little
not submitted-
confused about why some of these items are on here and
Jack-
some aren't.
Jackson, he has not, number 4 has not submitted appeal. He has come to this meeting
Ah, I got
to
it.
ask
Okay.
that.
Oh, no, I submitted, I did submit.
Mute,
Yeah.
please, mute.
Mute.
Come
Wait,
on, mute them up. There we go.
Yeah,
Hey,
sorry.
hey, I've been
Mute
waiting
all.
for,
Mute all.
Yeah,
They
I'm
can
sorry. We
unmute
could I
did.
speak for just 1 minute?
No.
No,
No.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
That is
Could you
not our
please re-
agenda tonight.
Just mute all.
Okay.
Okay, You
All right.
won't do it?
Could you please
Okay.
Change the settings.
for
Okay.
1 minute?
All right. So
I-
at this point, we will
I'd like to
continue on
say,
and anyone
could
who
you
would
please
like to
clarify
submit.
my
an appeal.
question? It's 1 minute.
No,
Patrick, you got it? Okay. We have a motion and I believe we have a second. Please
We have a
correct me if
second.
we're wrong. We have discussion and I
Brian.
will call the vote. Is there any other discussion? Okay, we'll call the vote. David?
Yes.
Jackson?
yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Brian?
I will say yes.
Celia?
I don't understand.
Did Jessica ever finish her sentence? Did she ever finish talking?
She did.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think she did.
Did she nod your head? Did you
She
finish
did.
talking?
I sure did.
Oh, okay.
Celia,
Celia converted
felt
these
like
to
we got
941.
resolved.
Yes.
Celia, what that means is that they're gonna actually attach these amounts to their,
Okay.
Of
What
which
they owe the
will be
homeowners
able-
association.
Which they will be able to
Yes.
submit an appeal. So she's a yes. Kevin? He's thinking, I can tell.
I mean, it's Pat, I'm missing something and I don't know what it is, but I'm sure I'll learn it soon. So yes.
You'll think of it.
Okay.
What are you missing?
And-
I'm sorry.
No,
With
I mean,
respect to
this is
which
part of the
item?
process.
It
This is
is.
just part of the
This
process.
is a standard process we
but-
go through every month, so.
Just, we'll get there. Oh,
Okay.
Okay, and I'm a yes as well, so motion passes. Okay, number 42 may take a little more discussion because it's so vast as compared to previous months, which I was surprised at. Number 42 is a motion to approve 24 resident fee waiver requests. And there are 24 of them, and we do have management recommends approving all of these items. That's why they have made it to the agenda. Do we have a motion to proceed?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
Can I ask
discussion. Yes, you may.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna break that habit.
That's why I did what I did a while ago.
That's how I always used to get to my kids. Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Okay. So on resident requested fee waivers,
Mhm.
what are these fees for?
These would be late fees or
Pay to
interest.
CROA.
Yeah, CROA
Got
late
it.
fees
Okay,
or CROA interest
Got it.
fees. And there is some valid reason as to why they feel,
Okay.
management feels like they should not have been
Okay.
charged this. So they've asked us to waive them. for
No,
them.
because I just saw condos versus
Right.
individual homes and I'm
Right. And if you
learning.
look at the report, it shows the number of times that they've been waived in previous years
Got it.
and the number of late fees they've
Okay.
had.
I understand now.
And for virtually all of them, this is their first time.
Yes, that this is, yes.
Mm.
Okay, except there's one that is not.
There's one with
Two, I think.
numerous.
Numerous, yes. But management is still recommending them.
Yeah, it looks like that was not their fault. It
So
looks-
yes or no, Cindy?
Yes.
Or, no, Celia, I'm sorry, not Cindy.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So
Sorry.
I will,
And you-
any more questions?
or
We are,
yes.
we have not
Okay.
voted yet. We're called for discussion.
Oh, I thought we did.
Wait.
Did we?
You
On
went-
this side-
Sorry, yes,
you
I'm
went ahead
sorry.
and voted.
Sorry, I'm,
Oh, I
so-
thought we did.
you,
No, we've not voted.
No,
We've
we
not
haven't
voted on
voted yet.
Questions.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Ready for questions?
Go ahead, sorry.
Yep.
Number
Sorry.
6, are we going to, management recommends approving?
It sounds like the recommendation is based on customer service could have been improved.
I saw the system error. I thought the system error was what drove it.
For
That's-
number
Yeah, for number
6.
6, it
If
says
you read
payments have been
there
made but
about the
returned due to a
fifth from the
system
left,
error.
that's, I assumed that the system
Yeah,
error
well-
really drove the price.
Well, but
I
then if you
do
read the
see
very last
11.
column,
I see 11 late fees in the past 5 years.
I do see that as well.
At what
Mhm.
point is there some self-responsibility, like?
Yeah.
that could be an
self-accountability?
aggregate of what this total amount is, Kevin. Because that's more than 1 month. That's
Well-
more than 1 month's
Yeah,
assessment.
well, that's 8, isn't it? Because isn't it $25 late fee each time and there's $200?
I guess there's more to this and maybe management. I don't know if you could.
I don't know the specifics honestly, but looking at this, it looks like there was a systems error, but also maybe there was some customer service in there that could have been, if you look in the right-hand column,
11
it could have
times.
been improved.
But I think that's multiple. This is including multiple.
Okay.
in that. Okay, so
I mean,
okay. I,
Has
know,
there action been taken to address that?
I don't know what action, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a weird one. So I'm gonna.
So why don't we waive number 6 and ask for, I mean, we can waive it for 1 month and ask for detailed support from the next board meeting. Or
could-
or an
we could-
explanation in
yeah,
an
so we
email.
could, yeah, so we could remove this from consideration.
Just suspend
Right,
it for 1 month.
Suspend it until we get further details.
Approve number 6.
Suspend number 6.
Okay, okay.
Because I had seen it, I thought it was the system.
So then the
issue.
motion is to
It says
waive
both.
all except for number 6, which
That we
is
will
being
request-
deferred for 1 month.
Yeah, defer it until we can get additional information. Okay, does it, who made the motion
I think I did.
and who seconded?
I
Cindy
think Cindy.
seconded? Okay, and you're
And I'm
both
okay
fine with
with
making the
changing
change to that? Okay, so we're gonna approve all of these except the one that we've asked for additional information, but I think there's someone, I see
Oh, yeah,
someone
there's-
pointing his fingers in here.
Some,
Kevin, you still got a
I'm
comment?
trying to find the number. It must have been a different one. Sorry, because I was looking at this morning or yesterday morning. No, it's another one.
Okay,
Must be missing.
all good?
all good.
All right, I will call the vote. Yeah, this is more than what we normally have. Normally this is like 2 or 3 and this is 24 this time, so.
I just point out, if you look back at the KPIs, that there was no activity for a significant period of time, right, Susanna, when we looked at it? So I don't know if this is a function of post-COVID or getting back into the flow. But if you
This
look,
is a catch-up.
it's 0, 0, 0 for,
That's what's causing this.
3
Liz.
months.
Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. All right, I'm going to call the vote on this unless there's any further discussion. David,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Celia, yes, and Kevin.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Motion passes. We are now to item I, which is board comments. And I know several of you have comments that you would like to discuss.
You know Celia does.
I do.
Okay?
Okay. Okay.
I'll call on Celia.
So I won't, okay. So, okay,
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine this distance. and
Okay.
gets me.
All right, so, Monday, I donated blood at the truck in the bus in the front. And I noticed this over the past few months going to the sports fields, that the retaining wall that's in front of the sports field by Celebration Avenue, I kept saying to my husband, it looks different. The top is missing. And look, there's sand all over the place. So when I was walking home, because it rained over the weekend, I think it rained over the weekend. We were in New York, but it did rain, and it happens every time it rains. That retaining wall is creating a very hazardous sand situation on the sidewalk, like 3 or 4 more inches of sand. I sent emails to Susanna. I sent emails to Neil. I've sent follow-up emails to Susanna. I sent follow-up emails to Neil. I went and looked, wasn't cleaned up that day. It wasn't cleaned up the next day. I went and looked again. It was finally cleaned up, but I never received a response about this wall. Kevin brought up that in fact, the top layer of that wall was removed. Aesthetically, it's ugly as you're walking by those fields. And it's creating a dangerous situation when the kids are riding their bikes. Riding over deep sand is like literally riding over ice. You lose control of your bicycle, especially if you're not paying attention. And for that matter, even an adult, as they're riding their bikes on that large amount of sand, is dangerous. Why hasn't that pavement been replaced or fixed? And why couldn't I get a response to this email with the pictures that I sent in detail?
Okay, so you're asking me to answer those questions correctly? Yes?
You.
Okay. So as far as I remember, we got the email on Thursday morning.
No.
Okay.
Nice.
Well,
Okay.
it may be so, but I saw it Thursday morning, and then you followed up again in the afternoon saying that, is there an answer to this email?
I
And then
actually came in that morning and spoke to Patrick at the desk. And I told you my computer was still possessed. And I asked you, I says, who's in charge of the fields? And he mentioned that it was CCD. Who's in charge of the sidewalk area in front of the fields? And he mentioned it was CCD. Called CCD. They said, no, that's CROA's responsibility.
Okay.
I
can
then
just-
sent the email with the pictures to you that day, Monday and Tuesday.
It was
Okay.
Monday.
It was Monday, yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I didn't see them in time. So when I did see yours and I responded, it'll be done the next morning. It was done.
I
this
never got a
morning.
response
Oh,
from
I sent one
anybody.
saying it'll be done in the morning.
Nope.
Did nobody get that?
Nobody
Okay,
responded.
well, then maybe it's in my drafts. And I
No,
didn't-
Susanna, you did send it because I got it.
No.
Okay.
I don't remember getting it'll be done tomorrow morning.
Well, I said it'll be
so-
done tomorrow. Well, I thought I did. And then
Okay.
I had them, they did it this morning and they sent me a picture.
It was done
so-
way before this morning. It
Yeah,
was done on Wednesday when they cleaned it up because I went out there.
It was
And
done at
checked.
7:40 a.m.
No, it was
so-
cleaned up.
That was yesterday. So it was yesterday. I'm
Okay.
looking at my phone.
Right.
So
And then
anyway, you
Is there
know,
a response about,
sometimes,
do we need to put the topper back on there to prevent?
yes,
it
I
from
was
happening
told
again?
that there was a top layer of the bricks missing. And so this will happen until they fix that, and they're going to fix that.
And what's
When?
the- do we have a
So
plan?
I'll have to talk to them, but I'll have to look back to exactly when I got the email, but there is some time sometimes between you, when you receive a request or a directive, to when you can implement that. And so I understand that that's like a very dangerous spot with the sidewalks. And so as far as I know, when I got it, we responded within 24 hours. So I'll have to look back to see if I missed some days there.
Okay.
Who's them? Is that
No.
our
Maintenance-
office?
A maintenance team.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. So it has been addressed and we're going to address the topper.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. I am going to ask, we did say board comments. I know Neil has a comment, has an announcement that he wants to make. Do you want to continue with board comments or let Neil to make an announcement?
I'll have
take-
one comment, but go
Okay.
for it.
Neil, you go first.
Neil, you want to make, you are there?
I'm here.
Okay, there you are.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so Mike Henry's on the call. Mike Henry has done exactly what we thought he was going to do, and he has now accepted a position as a community manager, and we're very proud of him. That does mean he's leaving Celebration, and he's doing so with the full support of the team behind him. And I wish I won't share my personal conversations with Mike, but I'll share with all of you that I think Mike's incredibly talented, and it's of no surprise he has been sought after. And for him to have opportunities like this, I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud of, what he's going to be able to do for his family. So Mike, thank you again. I know we've had some private conversations. I won't share them, but we are here indefinitely whenever you need support and help. And on that note, Tim Prescott has accepted a promotion to succeed Mike as the operations manager. For those that don't know, Tim started, I believe, with Golden Oak, and then he came over as an inspector for Celebration, and then maintenance lead, then service area manager, and now operations. So from a succession perspective for the success of Celebration, Tim's a great step to try to step into Mike's shoes.
Well, I know hopefully I speak for the board that we certainly wish you well, Mike, in your transition to your new role. That's exciting to see someone get promoted to a community manager role. So we certainly wish you well. And Tim, we'll keep you busy as you hear this evening. So again, thank you, Neil, for taking the time to announce that to the community as well to the board. And we wish them both the best of luck. Celia?
Oh, sorry. Just going back to the sand.
Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Hold on just a second.
One
Okay.
question.
All right. I was gonna go to Kevin, then we'll come back to Celia on the sand.
Tim, your first order of business. So one thing, just a real quick request is, and I've been asking the same thing for a while, on our condo update list, which I appreciate greatly. I would like to make sure that we have every condominium association here in the community as part of that. It remains, and it has never actually included every single one. So I would like to see
Which
that
ones are missing?
happen. Town center condos.
So I know that the town center condos are coming to the condo council. They've been
Yes.
invited and will be attending. I would hope that all of the condos will start coming to the condo council. Just for the board's knowledge, what we've tried to do is to change the condo council into being more of an interactive listening experience. We want to hear from the condo managers and owners, and then sharing with them what the board is doing. In years past, the condo council was an educational piece. I'm not sure how many times you can do anatomy of a leak before it gets a little repetitive. So that's less of our interest. Our interest is more in trying to be a better communication piece. I know that's Celia's big concern, that we would be listening to the condos and then reporting back to the board, and then sharing with the condo owners what the board is doing that might specifically impact them. So we're excited. I think our first meeting is in May. And if you're a condo board member somewhere and your condo isn't participating, we want you to be here.
Yes,
Very good.
absolutely.
Okay. All right.
And then my second one was just going to the attorney case list for the management report. I don't know if it's possible to get an update just on item number 3. It would be easiest to explain it to those who can't find it right away, is the highest figure.
Which
And-
page are you on?
Page
It's the attorney case
419,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
419,
419. Thank you.
item number 3.
It's the
And I know it's-
47.
Yeah, and I know it's been sitting there for quite some time. But it's the only one from that year. Maybe there's one other actually. But I just
We
don't
need
know if there is
an
any more
update.
information or an update on that we could have maybe next month, if not.
And actually, that's why I asked the question about Arias Bossinger. Is Arias Bossinger the firm that's handling all of these, or is it being done by someone else?
Except for one that's in office,
There's one that was in office, right?
but that's a
Yes.
bankruptcy, so it may be different.
Yeah. Do we get any kind of, I looked at some of the detail on these, and I wasn't knocked out with the quality of the detail in the report. I just say that, looking at some of these things, it's kind of pro forma that we're getting. I would like to have more detail, particularly on these bigger items, about what's going on, because some of this is large and has been going for a long time. And I know that the quick answer is it's COVID, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
I think we're
I'd
kind
still
of
like an
past that.
update.
We got
I
it. We got
I
to
think
get
it's
more.
fair to ask for an update,
This
maybe
one
add a comment.
specifically, if I'm not incorrect, is in the community standards legal report. Am I looking at the right address? I may not have. Because there was no,
I don't know, honestly.
Yeah.
it's just the last update was July.
I think we,
Oh, yes, that property was cited, was kind of marked along many years ago as possibly going to mediation. but that owner has fought for foreclosure back and forth for many years.
Mhm.
Just get an update onto that list. That would answer
Okay.
probably most of it.
All right, was that it, Kevin?
Thank you.
Celia, you're back to sand.
Just one other question on the sand. Who cleans that? Off the sidewalk?
If it's runoff from there, it's CROA maintenance.
So while the landscapers are doing their landscaping, after it rains and the sand is there, can they pick it up?
Yes.
So can we, because I pointed it to the landscaper that morning, and he just kept going. So
We'll
just,
communicate it to them.
okay, great. And the hearts, the
We-
Celebration Foundation hearts,
The
June
signs.
1st.
right, the
Right, we had
signs,
said, and Dave and I actually had a conversation about that earlier today. And
right.
we had said Memorial Day, right? The end of the
Right.
month. was
Yeah,
what
the-
we had
the,
said.
At Founder's Park.
Yeah, we made a board decision
Mhm.
and that all those heart signs need to be down by Memorial Day as well as holiday decorations.
Mhm.
And I said that I would reach out to the foundation
I spoke to Kathleen
and
today.
that I would come back to the board if they balked or had
Mhm.
concern. Everything was fine.
She thinks it's an amazing.
So it's all up to them, how they want. We're communicating that it's going to be signs down by Memorial Day. And then they're discussing among the foundation, what, what you might want to do, where there might be a
Can
donation.
JR put it in the Friday flash as we get closer, or give the residents an update? Since
Yes.
we did it at the schools, maybe now we're gonna remove the signs and put them at Founder's Park.
It's up to
to
the foundation to
celebrate.
decide what they want to.
She thought it was a great idea, but who conveys that to JR to put in the Friday flash? Them or us?
Well, we communicate that signs have to be down from personal residences.
Mhm.
Then the foundation can work with JR about communicating what they would like done with them.
Okay, because she said today that,
But then
Yeah, I
they-
talked with
they
her
need
like
to
right after the
communicate.
right,
meeting.
I don't
Yeah,
know
that's why
that.
we're- Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why we're partnering with the foundation.
Okay,
Since they were their
good.
signs.
Yeah,
and
it was all
communicate.
handled a couple of weeks
Okay.
ago.
Okay. All right. Who was next?
Gotta be a
I
motion
have
to
nothing.
adjourn.
Well, I just want to acknowledge that we've been doing these tours and going through the RFP process. I want to publicly thank Celia for the work that she's doing
Oh,
to
thank you.
maneuver and negotiate and work through this, and to Gary Hudspeth for his work in putting this together, and to the staff. We appreciate very much the hospitality that you're
Yes.
creating in the mornings and at lunch, and the graciousness with which you're operating through this process. A lot of people put a lot of effort in. The burden's going to start to fall more and more on us as a board, but I am very appreciative of the quality, of the seriousness of the interest of the companies that we're talking to, and the way that we are presenting Celebration, I think, is in a very positive and favorable light and an honest light. And I just want to thank everybody on that task force, and Gary and Celia specifically.
And thank you to you, Jackson, because you do most of the speaking during the
I
tours.
know that's hard to believe.
All right.
But
Any other,
he does an
I think they're
amazing
going
job.
exceptionally well, and CCMC has been a wonderful partner in helping us get them set up. Any other comments?
Couple,
Brian
three,
has some
yes.
comments, yes.
Okay, when we look at the rest of the committees, can we get can we get that grid updated? Because it's going to be
Yes.
more complicated than trying to go through the darn things.
So,
And it can be issued right with it so that we can have it all
so if
together.
we can just do the grid of just the remaining committees,
Yes.
and I think that falls to Susanna. to
Susanna,
get that
you listening?
updated. Yeah, update the grid with just the remaining
Yep.
committees that need approved at our next workshop, which is the 14th.
14th.
May 14th, Friday.
Yes,
And there's
Friday.
one
Okay.
on the 21st also?
To make it
Not sure
easier to
about
put
that.
this
I'm not
board
looking at-
book together, I would seriously recommend that we take the financials out of it. Just like you could go to the website and link on the board book, just have a separate link, which is the financials. They make it very, very thick. We've still got the treasurer summary. We're not hiding anything from the public, but we're making 380 pages be 240 pages, which will help everybody. So
I think that would, because I think you,
I think
as
that's
long as
fine.
you can see the financials, which you can on the website, I think that is a
I think it'd be right
streamlined board
beside it,
book.
this easy.
Yeah,
to
400
me.
page board book, which we have this is just
Too much.
crazy. Crazy.
Thanks to management for putting it together.
Yeah, it was a monster.
But it creates a monster.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it was-
Susanna,
it
for
was,
printing it out. I did
And
read it all.
on the,
Comment that I did send you an email.
can we not deal with sand right now?
Yeah, let's move on.
I
We'll
don't
get with it.
care.
I understand.
I'm sorry, but,
It was brought up to my
Yeah.
attention, so
Okay.
I'm answering the question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on RFP, we still have issues that we're gonna have to think about. For example, when the proposals come in on June 1, are we gonna make them public or not? And we have a freedom of information. If we have a freedom of information filing, then what would be our legal status? So I'm trying to bring up some issues because I still think there are things we got to talk about.
And then-
You know, we haven't just talked about, like David and I were talking about, which meetings will be public, like when we talk about finalists and stuff like that. So we're gonna need legal feedback on stuff like that. So I still think there are some complicated issues that we need to get resolved so that there can be clear communication across the board on that, because if we get a piece of paper in here on June 1, there's going to be requests, Freedom of Information Acts coming in on June 1 or June 2nd. We can't sit there and say we haven't thought about it. So there are
Yes.
certain things we need to start thinking about.
We need to talk about that, but.
And if the answer is we disclose them, great, we disclose them, but let's understand what that means.
When
we
did-
ask for
Said the
guidance from
meetings will be
council?
public, so the RFP task force will be public, the finance committee will be public. You probably will have members of the public who call into those who haven't participated so far, because they'll be very curious to see and understand, just like we talked tonight about how it's going to have future budget impacts and all that kind of stuff.
Because it will
And what
impact
the
our
structure look
residents.
like? I mean, we just got to prepare ourselves in the next month, and I'm asking the board to stay cognizant of that.
All right, and someone over here had another comment? Okay,
So we had them going back, May 7th, May 14th is the workshop.
it is the workshop.
Could that
We had it- we
be,
had
some
it-
of your items be part of that discussion, Brian?
I think we need, that's only 2 weeks before the proposals arrive, so I
Right,
think,
we need to
yeah, we need,
do
time
it
would be
before the
of the
proposals
essence.
arrive.
And we need to finish the committee appointments, and then I think we need to, I think we had something else on the agenda for that. I think it was covenants. I have to go
look at-
back and look at my notes, but we have, RFP has to take precedence because of the timeline.
So that, and so we know what a lot of those details of that process.
Yes, I agree. Okay. 3 hours and 2 minutes later, may I have a motion to
You hold
adjourn?
the record.
Hold the record, and
So
not a good
moved.
record to have. So moved. Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned.
So